everybody, and welcome to the newest indoor adventure in... Hey, guess what? It's the Q&A. It's the retrospective of the 4 Keeps, a levels 1 through 20 campaign. Today is December 18th, 2023, and you are loved. That is a very important thing that we like to remind each and every single one of our viewers and listeners at the beginning of each and every single one of these games. If this is your first time joining us, you can go to youtube.com/indooradventures to check up on all of the VODs of each of the games that we have played up until this point, or you can go towards anywhere audio casts are being made available for free. You can join us there under the same moniker. But speaking of things that are being made available for free, if you go to patreon.com/indooradventures, you can check up on our after show called Nights in the Courtyard, where we talk about games. Hey, guess what? That's essentially what this is. If you've ever been curious about joining the Patreon, what's it about? I mean, well, the Patreon, like, Nights in the Courtyard is free. You don't have to pay for it. But that helps me pay for books and production costs and other things like that. So if you'd like to support the show, patreon.com/indooradventures. Other ways to support the show, if you go to indooradventure.redbubble.com, we got t-shirts, we got posters, we got mugs, we got crop tops, throw pillows, shower curtains, aprons, clocks, and we also have face masks with the symbol of Tiamat upon them, designed by our very own Cyberwolf 1201, where all of the proceeds of all of our merch is currently going to help support Doctors Without Borders. So whether it is a Tiamat mask or a DanaeKeener.com t-shirt, we have those too. Hey, join us at, again, Indoor Adventure, no S at the end, .redbubble.com. But that is it for my opening spiel. So I'm going to ask somebody I don't normally get to ask questions to in the real world. Hey, Levi, this is your first time on the show. What are you doing here? How'd you get here?
How'd I get here?
How'd you get here?
Yeah.
What are you doing on the show today?
So today I will be the host of this little Q&A. Simon was kind enough to be the one collecting the questions from the Discord community, myself, and all these fine folks over here. Let's see here.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been here for a bit. Yeah.
Other than that, everyone, as you know them, is themselves. We are all not playing characters, but our regular human selves. At least, you're not characters as far as I know. But other than that, the panel format, as we expressed earlier to the players, we're going to go for as long as we have questions. So, hey, for the first hour and a half, we're going to, if hour and a half goes by and we hit break time, we're going to go to break. Then we'll come back and we'll finish it up. If we end up going the full time, we end up going the full time. Other than that, I think that's it for me. So this is no longer the thing that I'm hosting. Levi, take us away.
Alrighty. See. If people are watching this, I assume we don't need to go through the all the character intro stuff.
Why did this happen?
We have lost a camera.
Oh my!
We have lost a camera.
I changed my name and then it removed the camera.
Your name is you, Simon. You've removed yourself.
And it said you are not perceived.
Wow.
Blame Zoom, not me.
No.
What is a name?
A miserable pile of flesh.
We are in a silly, goofy mood.
Always.
Let's see. Are the faces where they gotta be? Okay, good.
Everything's fine.
Alrighty, so yeah, I assume that we won't need to go through all the character intros, especially because the players are going to be talking about their characters.
Exactly.
I assume that people can get context clues. So, to begin, let's go with the beginning. Let's see here. This first question is the first one from me. Kind of talk about the campaign structure a little bit. Simon, I know I asked this before, but why Caius for the big bad? And something I know I haven't asked. A lot of the campaign, especially that middle third, 5 to 10, spent a lot of time with Alira and the Hags. What were the inspiration on those fronts?
So the inspiration on that, as far as Alira goes, she was not... I don't think I ever initially intended for her to be a character, but as time went on, I really liked the idea that there was this representation of the land, and a lot of that, I think, came from the comic series Harrow County that I know that I've talked about a lot, a gothic horror done in watercolor by Tyler Crook and Colin Bunn, published by Dark Horse Comics, where one of the big bads is the Harrow County in and of itself is her domain. This area of land is and does belong to her. And I liked the idea that there was somehow a physical manifestation of what the land was going through, what the world was going through. So that way, or at least the world as the players knew, specifically so when they reached that point, they could see on a almost visceral scale how everything was how everything had been turning out so far. And the reason that she ended up gifting the house that we all know as Gideon to our Four Keeps players. One, fast travel, always going to be helpful. Did it break the game a little bit going forward in ways I could never anticipate? Buddy, that's just being a GM. That's always going to happen. But as far as using the hags as a mid-level fight, the reason why I picked that was going into the winter arc and gearing up from level 1 to reach that point. Hags are a very unique thing in that they are often situational and they're often spread throughout like a variety of places. So for example, you could have winter hags, the Blair hags from Volos, and seeing the winter hag and kind of getting to play with it a little bit through various one-shots and things like that. I really like the mechanics for it. And I realized that having 3 of them would be terrifying. Especially for something like that. And because hags are tricksters and because realistically these hags were malaligned, they were evil, I thought it made sense for this primeval archfey, this essence of winter, to be the thing that, very similar in when you all fought the not Tarask and not Godzilla, when you were in level 20, one of my favorite things is when what is it, Star Wars Episode 1, there's always a bigger fish moment, where like these are the big bads that you're facing. Like they've created the simulacrum of an ice dragon and there's all of this shit that's going down, and then you beat them and you know, oh, this was just the halfway point. Like these guys left because there is this bigger, badder thing. And I really like that in games. I really like that in narratives where there is that midpoint where you know this is difficult. We have to gear up and we have to know how to fight this in a way that was probably better suited for the end of the winter arc instead of the arc leading up to it, fighting the hags. But I think the hags as a kind of like a teaser of what to expect, in that winter is coming to places that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate it to, and there are people who can control it better than you anticipate. So that was my decision for hags. They're cool. I like hags. They're weird little guys that come in 3s, and I enjoy that for me. And then did you ask why Caius? So that has to do...
Why worms?
So why Caius is a much easier answer, a much simpler answer. I had a job where I would press a button and I would wait for a loading screen to finish, and sometimes that loading screen would take over an hour to finish, and then I would reset the software and make sure that the software could update again. And that was the job that I had at the time that I was figuring out what I wanted to do for this. So I was watching a lot of the AJ Pickett / Mighty Glue Stick Monster Ecology videos. And I ended up seeing a video on Caius. And I was like, that's cool as hell. And so I did a little bit more research. And also I had just kind of been like, at that point in time, I would go into the Forgotten Realms wiki and I would pull up a random article and I would click every hyperlink that I didn't recognize the name of. And I would spend the next day just ping-ponging around until I found a page full of things that I already knew. So Caius was kind of the result of that, of just like, this is really cool. This has a lot of options as far as both endgame and early game because of the monsters and spawn. I'm going to run with this. I think that this will be a good idea. But that started after I met these players of kind of thinking like, man, I want to run a campaign, but I want Caius to be in it. But when I first started GMing, like the map of Alira was like a sticky note that I made for some friends when I went down, and they were like, we want to play D&D, but nobody will run for us. And I was like, I kind of know how to run. I've GM'd like 3 sessions of Storm King's Thunder so far. Let's make our own campaign. And so everything spawned from that was some old college friends and I wanting to do that. And then after their campaign ended, they were the evil campaign, as we all lovingly call them. But after that, and watching again the videos of like, this would be a cool enemy, I was like, this guy's got a fucking point. I'm gonna make this the cool enemy. And then it was just 5 years of worming my way through a campaign of just like, okay, like, when do we drop this? When do we want to like put the hints? And I was able to put one in the first session, and then it wrapped up beautifully by the end. And so that's why Caius. I like him. I thought he was weird, and I hadn't seen a lot of other media focusing on him. So I wanted to have it be like, if I said, oh, the threat is Vecna, I mean, like season 1 of Crit Roll had almost wrapped up at that point, or had wrapped up. So like Vecna's on everyone's radar. But if I say it's Caius,
oh yeah,
and it's like, oh, it's worms, be like, yes, it is worms. Like, I thought it was a lot more fun to design a campaign around that, and then to also have that be something that my players encountered throughout the campaign. I am also just still very thankful that I got 4 strangers on the internet to agree to play in a game where I ultimately said, haha, it was worms all the way down. So thank you to these wonderful players.
If you ever had to ask any of us
Speaking
if
of
we
these
would
wonderful
love
players-
Simon... Oh,
I would say RJ,
Sorry.
continue.
I see where you're going with that. Put a
if
pin in that.
you were ever going to ask us if we would love Simon if he would be a worm, yes, we will. He is our worm.
We did also kill him. That is very much a thing that we did.
We killed him a lot, actually.
Yeah. Killed the shit
But we
out of him.
also loved him.
Speaking of these 4 strangers on the internet,
Yeah.
for all of the 4 keeps, how did you come up with the idea for your characters? What was that like initial seed of like, oh, this is something that I could explore for
Catholic
20
trauma.
levels? Yeah.
Oh, well, my answer was going to be 4th edition, which is pretty par for the course for you and me. 4th edition had Eladrin in the original PHB, so I was familiar with them, and I was curious to see how 5th edition would interpret them. And fortunately, they gave them the like season feature, and I was like, I cannot stick to one character for too long. Like, if I'm going to play from 1 to 20, I have to play a character that will change enough often enough that it would keep me engaged for this length of time. So that's why I chose Eladrin.
And I assume that's a big part of why towards the end, Cori was straight up 4 different people.
Yes. This is true. It's absolutely true. I do remember exactly when I came up with the idea for Cori. I was dissociating in the middle of a rodeo. It was a it was a North Dakota rodeo. So there wasn't like, bronco riding or anything. It was stagecoach parking. So I had to like occupy my time with something, and I was obsessed with this upcoming game.
I have never heard this origin.
Wow.
I never heard
saved it for the
stagecoach
Q&A,
parking.
baby.
That's good. Alrighty. LB got her.
Yeah.
So, before this game, I was playing in a campaign of Horde of the Dragon Queen, that module that everybody picks up and nobody finishes. I was playing a white dragonborn sorcerer named Rogar, and his whole backstory was basically religious trauma, and he was not in it for Bahamut at all. Did not like him, triggered by the whole thing. Through the campaign, he found a black dragon egg, hatched it, had a black dragon son. Eventually, Bahamut came down and talked to his black dragon son. Did not speak to him at all. I figured like that was a whole moment for like the GM to be like, hey, talk to this god. Maybe he's not that bad. Maybe Tiamat is a bad guy. Maybe you should talk to the good guy. Never happened. So I'm like, I honestly, if we continue this campaign, I'm probably gonna swap sides and join Tiamat. I want to be able to explore that where my character is still a hero. Hey Simon, see you're looking for a character for this thing. Well, boy howdy, do I have a pitch for you. I also just did not want to do a warlock again. I do warlocks a lot. So I did Blood Hunter. The Blood Hunter, definitely not warlock. That definitely stuck.
You've muted yourself, LB.
This time and every time it stuck. Every time you changed it. Gwen came from my idea that I've played a lot of D&D, and I've played a lot of different classes and races, and I always try to do something different. And I realized I had never played a halfling, and I was like, well, what's the most... I mean, there are no restrictions that saying halflings can't be barbarians. Like, why not just make them like they are small and they have their capacity for carrying is different and stuff like that. But it seems ridiculous, but it is plausible that this like the tiny terror could be a thing. So that's kind of where she came from. And the fact that she was she didn't like gnomes kind of came from the fact that I thought, and I don't think it's accurate, but I thought that gnomes were smaller than halflings. And I was like, Gwen says that like she's small enough, nothing needs to be smaller than her, so she just doesn't like it. And that's like literally where her personality came from. She was just feisty.
This woman hates bugs.
Hates bugs. That doesn't make any sense. How could they like function? They're so small.
So I will note Catholic trauma is a very obvious start for Caelum. But,
no, so just to level with the chat, I made the joke that Catholic trauma is going to be my answer for everything during this session, and Levi asked the question, and I just hopped on that opportunity.
Take away again.
For Caelum, though, I had just come off of a very short stint in a Pathfinder game where I had a really fun character concept of Samsaren who has past lives, and they're able to tap into it and like gain skill abilities and stuff like that. It was a very short-lived campaign, and I didn't get to explore that. So when Simon approached us about this level 1 through 20 game, I was like, yeah, I could use a Shatter Kai. They're basically the same, right? And then we got to talking about the background stuff.
Yeah,
What was that?
coming into this, in the middle, like learning Caelum's history with Father Linar, like was more intense than I would have expected, and I actually haven't gone back to watch the earlier arcs, so I'm sure finding that out was a very interesting experience for the rest of the players. Speaking of Caelum, let's see. Back when you first built the boy, what did you hope he would become? Did Caelum grow in the direction you expected? Were there goals you had that did not come to fruition? And that is from a totally anonymous user of the community.
Honestly, I wanted to dip more into the shadow weave and that side of things, but as the narrative was going on, it was like, no, Char icky. She hot, but also icky, and not in the hot way. Also, I was really expecting. Well, I kind of wanted to stay a lich for a little while longer. Actually, now that I think about it, when I roleplayed Caelum as a lich, a lot of his morals were grayed out. And that was a fun thing to experiment with.
I bet, yeah. That there were some plot beats. Uh, uh, keeping with the character specific stuff. So wings. Let's see. Oh, also speaking of Shar, the consequences of touching that one book at the Library of Shar irrevocably altered Cori's story. What led you to make that decision, and if would you make that same choice again?
Whenever I make a big decision like that, it's because I think it's going to make the narrative interesting. And specifically in that case, I was looking to my fellow players like, should I do it? Should I do it? And I was getting a lot of nods, so I went for it. I would do it again. I know I would. I think I would take a different approach though. I've learned a lot about knowing more about what you want from the narrative and the importance of communicating that with your fellow players, you know, if there is something specific you want from the narrative.
Yeah, that's a big thing that I know I could theoretically work on more in my experience. Yeah, there was some very very intense stuff as well. Char's just intense.
For sure, for sure.
See.
But very hot, to be clear.
Oh, absolutely.
So hot.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get to find that out now because of Baldur's Gate.
Exactly.
Wait,
Hashtag
what?
Char did nothing wrong. Except a lot of things, but also not really.
She is the Gaslight Gatekeep girl boss.
Yes. We got some really good info on the like initial seed of Gwen, but LB, when you first built her, did you imagine her taking on that level of responsibility? And what about Gwen's effectiveness as leader has like surprised you?
Gwen is actually the leader? Is it canon? I thought Gwen was just saying it the whole time.
She's a chieftain of an entire civilization.
That's true. That's true. I think Gwen definitely started out as like she was a hired bodyguard, sort of like a bouncer situation. She was a follower, and I think through the other characters, she realized like, oh, I actually like no responsibility. Like within the tribe, there is a structure, and like I have the experience that I can be a leader. These people are broken and they need help, and like they need someone to just be that person. And I think some of that reflected on like me as an individual, because I'm I am that person that when everyone's like, well, what are we gonna eat? And nobody can make a decision. I can make a decision. I don't care. So I think a lot of it came from that, and just the fact that I think Gwen could see that there was a spot that kind of needed to be filled. These people are strong in their own way, but they needed a like support to kind of get them to where they were, and to help them along in their journey. And I think that Gwen just kind of had to fill that role. And then once she got back to the tribe and saw how shit it was, I have said this before, fully intended as a player, I was like, I'm not going to intervene. I'm not going to stir the pot. And then Gwen immediately was like, no, fuck that guy. We're going to kill him. I'm like, Gwen, no. So sometimes that character takes over, but I think she just wants, she sees that she can be that person, so she will be that person. And I think initially I had not intended that to be the case, but I was the only person who did not have a troubled backstory, so I had that foundation. Next season, oh boy, just you wait. I get to be the broken character.
Oh, I am all ears. Let's see.
Connor, no. Let me have this.
Am I gonna be the stablest character of the party?
As long as one of you volunteers to be stable, the rest of you
I'm
can be
tired
broken.
of being the goody. I'm gonna be the nasty one this time.
Look, I could be stable with a troubled backstory, okay?
No.
Spoilers.
You can be, but for how long?
Yeah, that's true. There is going to be a point of, you break down and cry for a bit, and that's just okay, Sometimes you gotta cry. It's okay.
Oh yeah, Noctua was saying that Caelum was a lich from level 11 to 18. That's you were
Noctua.
Thanks, Noctua.
He spent a decent amount of that time feeling bad about the stuff he did when he was not in his right mind, though.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go full, off the leash lich.
Well, save for that one time he went to go hunt down some were-rats in the sewer to change their memories so that he can keep everyone's cover intact.
When did that happen? Was I here?
That was during the winter arc when you guys were in the Fomorian fortress because a were-rat saw you, and Caelum put on the owl mask and went to town after asking, or at least telling everybody, I'm going to do something that's kind of not cool, but don't worry about it. It's for the good of everyone.
Incredible.
Yeah, those owl mask moments.
Mm-hmm.
That was an ocean moment every time. Speaking of characters who had a lot of oh shit moments, for Cyber, Arjhan's arc deals heavily with identity, dysmorphia, and fighting himself. Did you anticipate where his story would take him when you create the character? And what about that, what 4-class journey surprised you the most?
Okay. Just as a character, Arjhan was designed to be a character to grow into. He started out very shy and timid because of the environment that he raised, which was just a tool for me to get more comfortable playing this character long term. It was always the plan to have him become more confident as he was removed from the place that he came from. I don't know that I meant the dysmorphia to be a really constant theme until we started leaning heavier into the backstory with like Tarlayan and stuff. Which was for the most part is Simon's domain. I always knew that learning more about himself was going to be a bigger theme. I had the name Arjhan from the start. Apparently, a common theme that I have with my characters is that they always have multiple names, and I think that's just from me being a middle name goer. You'll never know my true name.
I forget that's your middle name every time you mention it.
But I mean, just as he kept going, as you know, it made sense that he would be learning more about himself and becoming more confident, and realizing that a large part of the thing that he removed from was something so different from the environment that I grew up in. Wanting more of that, wanting to grow into that. I didn't expect it, but it made perfect sense. As far as what about his journey surprised me the most, I was not expecting any sort of romantic tide at all. So, good on Simon.
Good job.
The tip to GMs out there: just don't even try. Just make a character and let the player come to you. You don't have to go after a character specifically.
See. Yeah, speaking of love interests, there was. So yeah, it's very interesting that by the end, each member of the Four Keeps had a like dedicated mate or spouse. So for everyone, how did that develop? Because those those characters were all introduced at very different stages of the campaign. So yeah, how did that like start, and how did that like above board conversation go for you all?
Gwen's was part of her backstory from the start. I think either from the start or very early on, because Gwen came from Greenreach, which was a very like it was Hobbiton, like not gonna lie, I just stole it. But like it was, you know, a society where you had betrothed. It was, you know, you were, you know, betrothed to someone from a very young age, and I thought it would be hilarious to have that be one of the reasons why Gwen left. And bringing Philip in as dear friend Rob was so much fun, and really just made him, because Rob played him perfectly in my opinion, as far as like just being the bumbling idiot who was like, I'm here to save you, and she's like, no, I'm fine, like go away.
Guinevere!
Oh my god, still one of the best moments. But it was, yeah, that was from the start. He was always going to be a character. And I'm so glad he came up, but I kind of didn't expect it to be like that's who she ended up with. It makes sense as far as the story arc from Gwen's, you know, character perspective, because she like wanted to get away from this. She wanted to be her own person, and then she did, and found that she could also be that and be helpful to her family and helpful to, you know, the people of Greenreach in a different way than just being a wife and a mother and like all that sort of stuff. So I'm very pleased with where that story arc went.
Yeah, a lot of like Gwen's maturing basically that we talked about. A lot of the that was through like the more complicated relationship with Philip. That was interesting to see. All right, for the rest of you.
My name is RJ, and I like the lady with the combat boots.
Step on me.
Caelum, is your wife single?
I mean, given that we could have a conversation about it, no, not currently.
Okay, but like, when did you know that Caelum had
Yeah.
had an interest in Diantha? Because
It was
I as a player didn't pick up on it until much later.
I'm pretty sure RJ knew that Caelum had an interest in Diantha when Diantha was described, and RJ made like the face.
I was told she has a very big gun, and I was like, huh, okay. And then there were like the little interactions, like props onto Simon, because I remember specifically that we came off of like a She-Ra like binge, because a lot of the time Diantha would come in and go, "Hi, Caelum," like Katara from She-Ra.
A little bit. Hers. I also remember that the first interaction that she had where it wasn't the group of you was, I think, asking Arjhan, like, so what's the deal with your friend? Like, he's single? Like, what's good? Like, she came at you. Versus other characters where it was just like, I mean, Philip technically came after Gwen, but in a more, like, noble quest kind of way. Whereas Diantha was just like, that boy's weird. I like that little freak. What's good? And then you were like, I don't know, lots of things are good. She was like, God, you're so stupid.
Are we talking objective or subjective goods? Because that's a whole philosophical debate in itself.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I assume that there was like between or right after one of those sessions where one of you went to the other, it's like, hey, let's explore this.
I think it was a little bit further along than that, actually. It was like the first, or no, this is like the second time we entered the Feywild and Caelum met up with Diantha, where we had that small bit of downtime there.
Oh, yeah.
And then he started hanging out with her eventually.
I don't think that it was something necessarily that we talked about off the
It just
table.
kind of happened.
It was more of a just like, this character is flirting with you. This character is flirting back. Next thing we know, oh shit, we're married.
Huh.
Yeah, I think I think that was like as far as the conversation went. Of just like, I think you asked like, would Diantha be down? But I also like, I can't recall exactly, because it might have been Diantha being like, hey, what's up? What's good? Or like she smooched you out of seemingly nowhere when you saved the Feywild, like that kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
a number of things, but I'm pretty sure that it wasn't a conversation that we necessarily had off board, because the amount of yes and that I was getting from RJ in those scenes was, okay, I'm fairly certain that like if I presented this, that he wouldn't say no. Whereas like, in the initiation of just like, hey, like, how's it going? If he was like, I'm not really sure about this. Like, if there was like any trepidation or any barrier, any wall, I think that at that time I definitely would have been better at asking, at least, of just like, hey, this character's into you. Y/N.
I thought you were going to say, what? Like RJ said, why?
Why?
Mood.
Mood.
Yeah, as far as Diantha goes, I mean, I think it was one of those, like, she just picked Caelum and was like, you, this weird little guy.
I like your words, Magic Man.
Basically, yeah. I have also, for chat, posted a picture, the first picture that we have of Philip, into our questions for the courts, and I am trying to find where we also have a picture of Diantha, and I will put her.
You can find a picture of Diantha over at flailingwings.com. Oh, DanaeKeener.com.
I don't know if I posted that one. I don't think I have.
If you probably search the Four Keeps tab.
I'm looking. I've saved
It's almost
everything.
certainly in questions for the courts. I don't know if I was posting stuff in the art tab yet. I'll look for it.
Anywho's.
speaking of cool ladies with neat weapons, tell me about Olivia. What I think we have. I know that we've talked about it on questions for the course before, but yeah, how did that play out?
We had a choice between several different ship captains. And I remember specifically going, "Ooh, the drow sounds fun. Let's go with the." She wears a sun hat and she's like seafaring and stuff, but she wears like a sun hat to keep the sun off of her for her sunlight sensitivity. That's really cool. Also, I like elves. Let's do that. And then she flirted with me and asked me out, and then I didn't say no. So now we're married.
My girlfriend took me to the moon.
I am like I like tell me if I'm remembering it wrong, but I absolutely remember Olivia making the first move.
So it was, you had the choice of 3 different options. The option that I thought you were going to take was a gnome on a junker ship who spoke with a badger, and I was just gonna be a weird little guy across the sea. And I, like, as a GM, made Olivia as like the fuck it, drowsy captain. I guess this is her crew. Like, she was my throwaway in that moment. Like, I had no backstory. I had no further plan other than the base name and the general crew. And when you all first arrived on the ship, I remember that you were like trying to set her up with Caelum to try and like get those two together, because then she was like, "Caelum, come to my captain's quarters," and you were all like, "Ooh."
Then we found out she didn't swing that way.
Well, as soon as you came in, she was like, "So what's the deal with your friend Coriander? Like,
Yeah,
what's her whole thing?" Like, it was like a complete subvert on that moment. But again, like, I didn't know who Oliviette was until I was inhabiting that character. It just sort of gunning with it.
Cannot believe Olivia was our Bob the Goblin.
Oh my goodness.
That's honestly honestly, a lot of characters were Bob the Goblin. A lot of them.
You know, she went from Bob the Goblin to Oliviette the Moon Maiden awful fast. Like that shit had depth.
Yeah. Also throwing out that the Moon Maiden stuff that all happened, I just needed a reason for Danae to not be with the rest of the characters while y'all were on a ship, and I was like, the moon. That's a place they could go. And then again, it ended up being like one of the like quintessential like key memory formed with Cori and Oliviette, and that was me not really knowing what I was doing or where I was going at the time. But it turned out the moon was a pretty cool place.
Oliviette is your next day
With
Curry.
the
She gets better with time.
And it does help with the romance element. Simon did cite watching a lot of Arrow during one of the more like intense romantic talky episodes between the two.
Oh my god. That was
so I'm sure that helped a lot.
That was when she couldn't go to the Feywild with Cori. I had been just binge watching Arrow season 1 and 2. So I needed to invest in that CW bullshit. And it was so tasty.
Fun stuff.
Tragic. Like Cori's still like in full like Char secrecy mode. So it's all like, no, you can't with me. No, you can't come with me. No, I can't tell you why. Like,
perfect CW.
That is right on theme. And last but far from least, Arjhan and Rasa.
I don't want to know what CW show they are.
That did not get greenlit.
Honestly, I was real surprised about Arjhan because, like, from the early stuff, like, I knew I had Ilni in the backstory. But her showing up and just being like, "Oh, by the way, I've been lying to you this entire time. I'm not who you thought I was." Just really threw me for a loop. Um, and then, I mean, Simon, you're gonna have to tell me. I was getting weird vibes from Makoth like the entire first bit. Wait, was
So
Makoth a cougar?
Turns out that Indoor, as a person, doesn't know how to flirt as an older woman without making it seem kind of creepy and weird. And then she was like, hey, she also started off kind of weird. And I think that if anything, I actually really like how it turned out. I don't think that in the moment it was the best way that I could have done things. And I know that, at least in retrospect, but that's kind of what this is for. I know that she wasn't. I liked her as a character, and I think that the way that she interacted with the keeps was fine. I think that if I had to do things differently, I wouldn't have put her or tried necessarily to encourage her as a romantic interest with Arjhan. But at the end of the day, I think that it is much more telling for Arjhan and really telling of the campaign that Arjhan could put up a boundary and say, this isn't what I want. I'm actually not interested in this. I don't like you that way. And her having that moment of just like kind of like self-imploding because she had led herself to believe a specific thing. And again, if we had to go back, I don't think that we would have followed the same lines of dialogue necessarily that we did. At least I don't think I would have, to like a 90% degree certainty, because I mean, I'm the showrunner. I'm the brain behind all of the moving pieces. It's like, well, that clearly could have been changed to the same effect that we got anyways. But I really did appreciate the fact that Arjhan was able to say, I don't want this. This is not for me. I appreciate that, but no. And then to role play, I think that was more of a learning opportunity, or not necessarily a learning opportunity, but the way that was processed for me, being able to play as Makoth afterward, I think that was very, that's a hard road to walk, because it is a character that the rest of the party still wants to interact with to a degree. But you have not necessarily beef with one character, but you're on tender footing with one member of the party. And it's very difficult. I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't know if I played that the way that I wanted. I don't know if I played that the way that any of us thought that would go. But
I thought it was uncomfortable, but it was like a decent, like good place to roleplay. Like a little bit of tension. Like the safest way to explore being friends with both sides of a couple who just broke up.
Fair.
Because we all need practice with that.
But I think that the one thing about the Makoth relationship, if you would call it that, is that I'm gonna call myself out on bullshit. When we started this campaign, I don't think that we did a session 0. We certainly didn't set lines and veils, because that wasn't common vocabulary. That wasn't anything that I had really heard of. And each of us went into this campaign blind about where each other drew lines that they didn't want to cross. And I think that that's one thing that we have going forward, and that's one thing that we obviously like developed later on is the understanding of like, okay, like this person doesn't like this person like interacts with others in this specific way. But when we first started off, and Makoth being introduced in like the first like 5-6 sessions, at most by session 8, and then having that element to her, if we looked back on it, knowing what we know now, it's just like, oh man, was I the problematic one? Was I doing a bad? And it's a lot of like kind of looking at that and having to be reflective on it, because it is one of those things where like at the time I didn't even know that's what you should be doing. And so it felt very just like, well, like, I think we're doing okay. And like the idea of following up with a player wasn't at the forefront of my mind when it should have been, because at that time, the GMs that I had experienced in the game, I say game as a singular because I will always state that before doing the 4 keeps, I had run one campaign, and that was Storm King's Thunder as an adventure module. And even during that game, I'll be honest, I had a player leave because I misread what that character wanted. I completely misread what they were wanting and needing out of a scene, to the point where they just said, I'm good. And nothing sticks with you as a GM. Like when a player says, hey, you know that thing that you did?
Mm-hmm.
That's the big reason why I'm leaving. And you can only just say, okay. And so...
But to be fair, you did... I mean, like, as things changed in the community and as things changed in the TTRPG space, I remember specifically the time that I didn't know that I had a line and I had to go, hey, wait a minute. I can't actually do with the water snakes. I don't know why that's the thing.
Yeah.
Fucking. And yeah, I was like, hey, I can't do that. And you're like, yeah, okay. I won't describe it anymore. And I was like, perfect.
Yeah, no. And
that is so long ago at this point.
Oh, yeah, 5 years.
I myself have a problem where like I will look back on memories and I will dwell on them for so long. Because, you know, I made a mistake, and like I don't know, I think that it's like a method of my brain that goes like, we're gonna put this memory on repeat so that you never ever do that again.
Hey dog, I heard you were trying to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
That.
And at some point you have to like forgive yourself and say, I'm not that person anymore. Like I hate that I did that, but like I am better now, that it would not happen the same way again.
It's important to...
I'm thinking more specifically about like killing a dog in Curse of Strahd. But like, you know,
what?
I did do that, yes.
Our Twitch stream, not legally obligated, but technically should be on doesthedogdie.com under yes.
Yes, absolutely. I don't recommend that particular episode of Curse of Strahd. Everything else is Gucci. But
Thank Keener is over party.
Oof.
Anyway,
big oof, y'all.
We went on a long tangent.
So
Arjhan
was, you know, that was 2 ladies in his life that he was getting real bad blood with, real bad vibes with. So I was not expecting, you know, really anything else until it got to Gwen's wedding. And we were floating out the ideas of dates. And I didn't go with it at the time. But thinking about it, and I think that I actually rolled for it. If the dice would have landed differently, Arjhan would have invited Rasa as friends. because at that point Rasa was, showing a little bit of interest. And apparently the age difference between Arjhan and Makath follows Fire Emblem logic, because the age difference between Arjhan and Rasa was real different.
Yeah, with fancy stuff, age gaps are relative.
After a certain point.
Yes.
So that was the first time that we had floated it as a possibility. But then after getting the Potion of Dragon's Majesty and going to the Astral Sea to talk to Rasa about coming to the Hells to fight Orcus, I think that's what we were doing. And transforming and Rasa calling him beautiful, that's what solidified it. And then it just progressed from there.
Very nice. There was a question about Arjhan's relationship with Ilmi and Makath as of the monologue. Is it safe to say that that relationship is non-existent?
Well, Arjhan and Ilni actually did patch things up. It was during the year that he was in the Feywild working on the Potion of Dragon's Majesty. He did have time. He did reconnect with Ilni. He just needed time to figure out who he was and come to terms with the fact that she wasn't who he thought she was, and now wants to get to know who that person is. So they're on a lot better foundation here. At the end of everything, Arjhan and Makath, I think, also did patch things up after giving each other space. The big thing was her blowing up on him on not talking to her during the time gap that they were in the Astral Sea. The thing that he had no control over. That was a nerve for me as a player. Whoops. But after some time and them having a better working relationship just as two leaders of cities in the area, and especially with Arjhan wanting to do more intercity public programs like the Red Talon and everything, I think that they do end up in a friendlier place at the end of everything.
That's good to hear. Speaking of multi-city programs and other such ventures, for Danae, LB, RJ, and Simon, how is your characters or NPCs expand the next iteration of Small Business Simulator if we only had the time?
Honestly, if asked, Caelum would have thrown all of himself into R&D for Arjhan for potion brewing. Just yeah, I could go find some grimoires about some potions. It'll be fine. You want me to do what? You want me to modify them a little bit? Yeah, I'm all about that. Science bros, baby.
I miss Science Bros.
I gotta think about the stuff that I had access to at that point. I don't know if there was much for Cori in Small Business Sim at all. If we stayed in Small Business Sim, Cori would have found some sort of trouble to get into. Absolutely. Just all kinds of nonsense. Probably instead of being in so much trouble with Shar, she would have found a way to get into more trouble with oh, dang it, Island Dragon.
Arask.
Thank you. God.
Yeah.
I think Gwen would have done training. Like she would have been on the maybe not the intake sort of stuff, but like how to better yourself as a, explorer or as a fighter, or like learn from my mistakes is how you deal with people. I don't know, like she is not a business-minded person, so she would not be able to help in like any of the financials, obviously,
I
or
just
anything
remembered
like that.
Cori was already in trouble. She was water cursed by this point. She'd probably be working on that.
Okay, but to be fair, the question is the next iteration of Small Business Sim.
Next iteration, it's not Cori, man. It's Cori's mom.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's Summer Cori.
Yeah.
Working at like a surf shop or something like that.
Oh, dang, girl.
So how would characters, NPCs expand the next iteration of Small Business Sim? There are 5 Arillos jiving for small business that have lost their employment. They just want to work in a shop. They just want to sell trinkets and goods. If you need a shopkeep, as long as you can protect them from the greater cosmic entity of the Lord of Trade, yeah, they'll work. They're good at work. That's it. At least for me.
Yeah, if we don't have any thoughts on that, let's go with.
I submitted this question because I've gotten so much shit from Small Business Simulator.
It's fun. It's just like
I wanted a week to make a potion, and everybody got into trouble.
If it helps, I didn't know how to do downtime until we were in the 4th real life year of this campaign.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I didn't know.
But when you know better, you do better.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Speaking of ways that characters can affect the world, and therefore of that world, I assume this is mainly for the 4 keeps, but this could apply to all of you. What was your favorite part of the world building?
All right, listen. Throwing the Arcana in there, like as a 11th hour Hail Mary. Oof. That was the good stuff for me. He's like, but that aside, I really liked the underwater empire that we went to go get the vessel for Caius.
The Caelum.
The Caelum Empire. If we were to do like a prequel, I want to explore the Caelum a bit more. They sound rad as hell.
Vampire Church was vibes. Like that one took me out of left field. And I was like, ooh, that's actually really cool. Oh dang.
Mine was the Gated Glen and having like the Feywild bleed, and that in Greenreach having the Feywild bleeding in and how that would affect everything. I loved stuff like that. So, and having to traverse that. I appreciate Simon's ability to create a whole homebrew world in general. So I just the whole thing, but I think that was my favorite part because it was just like it's like when you're playing a video game and that part of the map is undiscovered, and I was like, well, show me more of this place. I want to see every part.
Yeah, but then you have to go to the Lakes of Lernia to find the key to get into the academy.
You could tell that the world was lived in. And part of that was because there were definitely scars from former games that Simon has run, like the Hololocks and everything that was there. But also that Simon is also not he's not overprotective of his world either. and definitely gives us the room to build out within it. He let me run a whole ass campaign a couple of years later while our current campaign was still going on. So yeah.
For me,
Yeah, they actually had. Oh, sorry.
No, continue.
Oh, I was gonna move on, but if you have something for
Okay.
the world building question.
Yeah, for me, I think that the greatest joy that I had at the start of this campaign wasn't solidifying the things that I wanted to be in the campaign, but it was solidifying the things that my players wanted in the campaign. I did not anticipate when I initially made this for Saloon to be one of the primary deities. I did not anticipate having a Feywild or the way that it was structured in its entirety. I had no relevant thoughts about the Cult of the Dragon or what that means to anyone, and I did not have a reasoning for Goliaths to exist where they did. Major parts of the campaign and major areas of the campaign, areas that we went to consistently, that we constantly revisited, those are all because my players are as invested in this world as I am. I can say, this is X place, this is who lives here, this is their daily routine, in a very Stardew-esque way of like, this building does not open until 8. I'm sorry you wanted to get farming equipment from Marnie. That's not happening. Like, I could do that, but if I ask a player, okay, what's there? And then they serve me gold? It would be a disservice to not include that and make that focal points in the upcoming campaign. Like when like all of the Draconians, everything Draconian related. I think there was one moment where I had a shocked Pikachu face, and that was when you guys met the Green Dragon Herald, Salren, also known as Ren to his friends and enemies. There was a moment where you went, oh my god, Mount Renstrom, he's been there the whole time. And I flipped through every note that I had and just went, yeah. And I closed it because that was not what I had initially thought of at all. Like, you guys were thinking of way better shit happening out in the world, and all I had to do was, quote unquote, make your dreams come true. That's the easiest thing I can do as a guy who can plan weeks in advance. So, like, all of that kind of stuff was that was my favorite part about world building. Wasn't the things that I was thinking up, wasn't the better ideas or better / worse ideas that I've seen in TV and movie and games. It was legitimately, I want to see what my friends create, and I want to be able to fit that exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah, I got back into GMing a couple months ago, and I could not agree more. The things that the players have tossed my way have been like the main factor of what I've been considering. And speaking of things that the players throw your way, there was the note about Tyrant Security, which I believe is where a lot of the lore around patience came from. Let's see.
Not seeing anything for Tyrant Security just yet.
Oh no. Let's see. There
is a question about
yes.
about patience.
Yes.
Yeah, the lore behind Arjhan's crossbow.
Okay. So as we were harping on more of the stuff about Tarlayan and the Warring Kingdoms and everything, just thinking about like how long ago that was in the world and everything. Talking with Simon, I brought up to him, like, I think it might. I think the invention of the crossbow might have dated back to the Warring Kingdoms, and it might have been done at Tarlean's instruction. Like he might have, like that might have been something there. And I think we started getting into like, oh, how did Tarlean die? Who actually killed Tarlean? And it was well, like one of the very first users of the crossbow, just like in the world. And Simon, what pronouns did we end up for them?
He, they.
Okay. And it was this trans man character called Arnbjorn, who was like one of Tarlean's like lieutenants or like generals or like something, who ended up, I don't know the whole story, but that yada yada things happened, was the person to eventually take down Tarlean whenever things were going to shit. We didn't have a moment for that to really come up on screen. I have, I think like we had discussed in Discord like how it would have ended up in Ross's horde.
Yeah.
And then back to Arjhan, but yeah, it just didn't seem relevant with everything else that was going on.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a I remember. Well, I also remember that it was like, I think I had made mention of just like, all right, like, do we want to tell the rest of the party? You're like, let's wait on that. And I remember like us getting like a pin in that conversation. Yeah, effectively the lore that had been established is that it was the crossbow that brought Tarlean down. After that, the hunter, from my recollection, Arnbjorn ended up traveling through the like pocket dimensions kind of thing, while tracking down some wild threat. It was at that point that they were saved by from mind flayers by Rasa and crew, because the Gith anti-mind flayer, we do not stand the Emperor here in Gith society, and patience was given to Rasa for saving the hunter's life, and then the hunter Arnbjorn, I think I had planned for them to like be stuck on the plane breaker or something relating to that. And like, because on the plane breaker, you don't age. Like there's no like, oh, you grow old and die here. No, like you are stuck in that stasis age. And I think eventually they managed to get off like hundreds of years later or something like that. But
I mean, well, Simon.
Yeah.
You're talking about a hunter that's been chasing a wild thing through pocket dimensions and being ageless. So you know I have to tie that into my season 2 story.
I'm here for it.
Fascinating.
Look, this is when you play that character in season 3. This is when you tie your own backstories 10 years later. But I think that is a good place to go to a break for the evening, so that way we can stretch our legs, get some water. We're making good progress through these questions. We're going to try and be back in 5 to 10 minutes, so don't go no place unless it's to grab a food, grab a drink, grab a friend, or possibly go to indooradventure.redbubble.com, and we'll see you all shortly. All right, everybody. See you soon. We're back. Hello, everybody. We've returned with yet
Simon!
more questions. What? Oh my god.
I just wanted to do that.
Oh my god.
do
I
have a
was
bit.
gonna say, like, we didn't do a bit this time.
Levi's living the dream.
Oh my god, it's incredible.
You got a reaction out of all of us.
I have
So-
now
Noctua,
Trump's
do you-
power.
Noctua, do you know when we first started doing that? I cannot remember.
Oh my
It wasn't
God.
Literally
like,
episode
the OG.
3, like we started doing that.
It was quite some
really?
time ago. Yeah, we were still calling Simon Steven back then.
Yeah.
It's true. That's my
Right.
work
Who's
/
Steven?
Christian name.
We were calling him by his government.
Yeah, from my government
Government.
ID.
That's so funny. My favorite one is still when we all left.
Oh yeah.
Just went away, and he went, "I see."
my personal favorite bit in retrospect was LB you doing the full haiku commit, like roll on your floor, and me being like, what the fuck are you doing? I have never seen haiku. Why would you do that to me? And now I'm over here like the lights are off, no music is playing, and I'm crying because chapter 378 of haiku is just fucking beautiful.
My favorite bit was with our dear friend Rob
Yeah,
and
same.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
that was
his
so
roommate
good.
coming
Fun.
out. The
Which
roommate
one?
coming out from under the
Oh,
desk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great
Also,
one.
The,
Oh.
this is a Caius infection checkpoint.
Yes, that was so
really
good.
good.
Truly iconic.
Rob, we love you. I hope
Yeah.
you're doing
I
well
mean-
in England.
Connor's
We should-
poem was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that poem was great. I was
Yeah.
just gonna be a silly goose and say my favorite were the Mario characters because I got to use props.
God.
What shark cat? When I had Asmodeus, the kitten, and he had his little shark hat on.
Oh,
Good time.
baby.
Just popping him up, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, Rob again, but with the ocarina.
My favorite one was where we bullied Simon with compliments.
Yes.
Oh yeah. That was a fun time.
I've
do
never
it again,
related to
too.
Noir more. Shout out to the Noir Enigma on Twitter. Great role player. Fantastic friend.
Delightful. So that was our first question back from break.
Yeah, our impromptu question.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Simon question mark.
Let's ease back into it. Were there any trope episodes that you particularly enjoyed or wanted to try that didn't happen? Things like beach episode, body swap episode. Well, we're all really into wrestling because Rey Mysterio's here for some reason.
We made the joke from like episode 2 that we were gonna have a Civil War episode.
Mm-hmm.
The Avengers, not American history.
Right. Now that we're
Man.
past that particular part of the cultural zeitgeist, we do need to specify.
We kind of had a beach episode. I don't know if our beach episode was actually, we were at the beach when we got attacked by the underwater elves.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to do a body swap episode, but I wanted to do it in a way that we played. Because it's hard to do like in a role play scenario, but like having to play the character, like you would either have to play your character's voice as the other person, but that would
Right.
be difficult because you would be making decisions for that other character, so that
Right.
wouldn't work. Playing your character in somebody else's voice and body, which would be more
Mhm.
like more role play heavy, as far as like Gwen being
Mhm.
like, why am I so tall? And like me doing accents, and like it would be fun because Gwen doesn't know how to do magic and would probably just do like, it'd be like the Teen Titans episode where they do a body swap. where-
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. I brought this up during Nights in the Courtyard when we did do a body swap episode in Curse of Strahd. My biggest pet peeve is when an animated show does a body swap episode, and what they do is that they just swap it, like they just put the voice actors in different bodies. Like I think that you should trust the voice actors enough to do an impression of the other character. Like it's the same vocal cords in that body. It should be like it should be Starfire's voice but Raven's affectation. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
Right. Helen Bonham Carter playing Emma Watson playing Helen
Bonham Carter.
Yes, that.
Yes. Trust your actors.
I would have
I'd say
also
that
liked
knowing
some.
full and well they used the other voice in that scene in the movie that will not be named. But
I would have liked some forewarning before that episode because I was panic reading through Cori's sheet like, okay, what can she do? Oh no.
Oh yeah, I'm not. I had to play a wizard. I didn't care about the fact that I didn't know how to play a wizard. Like that was part of the fun and like was very in character actually. I wanted to be able to practice Caelum's voice.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Coriander.
Hello,
How was
I
that?
am Caelum.
I'm Arjhan. This is very scary being so tall. How do
I
I
am
do
not about to
this?
scream into this mic.
Doug is sleeping.
My son is
very sleepy.
Honestly, I'm surprised I could do Gwen's voice for so long. Like, it's all nasal. That's it. If it had been anything else, I don't know. Because, like, I did have a raspy voice for her at one point, like a deep, like, Bakugo type voice. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't use that part of my voice. So just turning off everything else but my nose.
To be fair, like if we're talking about accents at the start of the campaign versus accents towards the end of it, I remember Cyber saying that he was going for like a New Zealandy accent for Arjhan at the very beginning as well.
Dang.
Yeah, really, I just need an accent where Blake sounded like black. So that's how it grew. And then the first one hurt my voice, so I softened it.
I went with generic British because I grew up listening to Chronicles of Narnia audio dramas, and I felt like I could do it. We're
I'm
going for an
nervous all the
adventure in the
time.
rafters.
Incredible.
Was that Simon?
Oh, I just said incredible. I love all you guys.
Incredible.
And it was also one of my big pleasures throughout the campaign to be able to imitate each of you at least once.
You always did such a good job, too.
Mhm.
You know, we keep on making up questions. We should throw it back to Levi.
Yes. I will say, how has playing the same character for over 5 years changed the way you view role-playing, if at all?
Ooh.
Not quite role playing, but when we were at PAX Unplugged, Danae fucking read me to filth. We were playing a game called Fictions, where it's essentially Wordle, but you get to the person gets to lie about like one of the letters inside of the thing to throw people off. And I was spelling out a word, and I was writing with my finger on the desk, and Danae just goes, "I think I just witnessed a Caelum moment."
That's so good.
Not specifically about role-playing, but role-playing games in general. Would y'all believe me if I said at the beginning of the game, whenever I heard that in Adventures League you can change all of your stats and your build and everything up to level 5, I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. How would you justify changing your entire character?
I know for me, this was my first streamed game, streamed TTRPG. So like it made me, I think, be okay with silence. I know Gwen is a filler as I am, like, and like if we have a moment where like somebody needs to roll and there's going to be some silence, Gwen will say something or like something will happen just as like to fill that space. But like giving people time to and listening was big for me because I have fidget energy. So like I know especially with Connor, I try to be very protective of like let him cook. Let him have his time. He's gonna come out and like say something cool. So I think that has taught me that for sure. And going forward, as far as like TTRPGs in general, I always give my advice to people who are DMing a stream TTRPG for the first time. I always say, like, don't be afraid of silence. Let your players have their moments and let it play out. You know, like, don't feel like you need to interrupt. Just let them do it.
I'm pretty sure there have been like whole sessions where Simon has said like 3 words and we've just been like soliloquying at each other.
It's so good. Yeah. Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
I literally don't need to prep at all. I just go, you're in a room.
Yeah.
And you all just go, okay, room time. Let's go.
Yeah. Or like vamping. We're good at vamping.
I mentioned before that I have a problem with sticking with one character for a prolonged period of time. And this was my like Clockwork Orange moment of like, you know, sit me down, tie me to the chair, stick my eyes open, and now you're Cori for 5 years. But it did teach me a lot about like letting a character develop over time. And I mean, letting them cook, as it were. This is the longest I've ever gone as one character. And I feel like it taught me a lot.
On a serious note for myself, I came from a background where it's a lot of shorter sessions. This is my first like commit to a really long game, and it's taught me to be invested in other people's characters. Because we are all telling a story, so
I think that's part of it. I really do, because like you come to the game because you want to see where your character goes, but you stay in a 5-year game because you want to see where all 4 of these characters go together.
Life is a highway, and I'm wondering where everyone else is driving to. Did they turn on their blinkers here too? Okay.
I will say kind of the opposite of sessions where Simon speaks very little. What's the top 5 NPCs?
Sten Fazeno.
Sten
Fazeno.
He was here from the start.
And I
was just the whole campaign going, when's he gonna come up again? He's gonna come up again.
I'm gonna say Arillo. Like there is no other character that has left quite the impression that Arillo did.
Agreed.
Better and worse.
Infamous still has famous in it.
Kara, Tiamat, and Arask are 2 of mine.
Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted are good, yeah.
Bill and Ted.
Oh,
the frump. The flump. Skiznabat, yeah.
Yeah, yes.
I know it needs to be said. Florence Welsh as the Raven Queen.
Yes.
You need a big god.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Oliviette, I gotta say my girlfriend. My dad. Fucking pink dad.
I love you.
Oh my god.
And your mom.
And my mom. Yes. We didn't get to see much of her until the very end, but like the fucking like prestige with the honeymoon chase fucking blew my mind, and I was like, oh my god, that's my mom.
It was very nice seeing Haterai. Haterai was the character that I met Simon playing.
And he was also a weird little guy who got discredited from academia. Like, his backstory literally didn't change going into the 4 Keeps. I just, renamed it from the land of Cheeto to Alira and the floating city of Vascor.
My name is RJ.
Saying Philip is cheating because that was Rob to start with.
You can say Todd.
Todd. Fucking Todd. Gray Skull. Gray Skull. A fantastic voice from Simon, actually.
Yeah.
Like that's like right within his register. Like and God, he's so dumb. He's so dumb, and I want to give him a big ol' hug.
But when he had to go to that when they were like, "Is it your birthday?" Like, I want somebody to animate that scene so bad of just like the fear, the lighting dims down, and they're just like clapping and staring at him. Oh my god!
Happy birthday.
I just loved wizard powers.
Yo.
I've got wizard powers. My
Kendek
favorite
was a real sweet boy too.
Who?
Yes.
Kendek.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Kendek. I
Oh,
like it.
Kendek.
Kendek and Strum.
Kendek and Strum and Girana.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
My
Huddle. Swift as the 10 wins.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Swift to
Yeah.
this 10 wins. Yeah, for sure.
the zesty anchor
even
crew.
Farron. Yeah.
Off console.
Yeah.
All the, there
Oh,
we
I
cannot
love
pick.
All of
Possibly.
them.
Yeah,
cannot
we could be here
pick.
all night.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
will.
He'll be here all night.
If I had
Oh.
to single out one single NPC
Each
though,
one of you choose one. Then,
Okay.
Who's not me, and that's how we'll choose top 5. Is each of the 5
Okay.
of you's
To me.
favorites.
Okay.
And we got chat's opinion because Levi's here. He's directly above me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am.
Yeah, in
Wow.
my Zoom and on the stream.
I'm gonna have to go Grayskull. My boy in my head.
What's
I was gonna say Grayskull.
Yeah. Sorry.
sing.
Cora.
Oh, sorry. What was that, Connor?
I'm gonna say Cora.
I feel if I say any of the NPCs related to Caelum, it's a cop out. I love them all dearly, but I love me a stinky, stinky bastard, so I'm going with Discovery.
Discovery's
Let's
a good
go.
choice.
Ooh,
Yuglon.
nasty.
Yuglon is my pick.
Shit, that was mine.
Haha, pink dad and a hamster ball. Yeah.
Kendek's great. Love it from the moment I met him.
For my favorite NPC that I got to introduce, even if it was momentarily, it was the squirrel that ran up and down the world tree. Ragdoll.
Oh my god.
Oh hey, let's go.
Oh.
He was my favorite because that also was just a very like out of pocket character. Like I don't know why I had that one on lock, but he was there. It's probably because I was watching Space Jam at least like twice a day for a solid month. But like, who's to say?
Well, I'm gonna make
Come on,
y'all
Slam.
come on and slam. My joke answer is the NPC in Sir Tellier that watched in horror as Cori jumped into the lava without taking the potion. All right, I drink the potion.
Was that everybody?
Oh god, yeah.
Levi, what about you, bud?
You
It's like-
said Kendek.
Oh, you said
Kendek.
Kendek. Okay.
But we all know that the overall choice is Sten Fazano, the award-winning arborist.
Of course.
The ironic choice is Sten Fazano, the award-winning arborist.
Look, grow big or grow home. Those are your two options.
Bruh.
Do you remember
still
the big
can't-
cheese?
Oh, the big cheese was pretty cool.
Okay, I'm gonna cut y'all off there.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Sorry, Mr. Bartender.
So Simon, what homebrew mechanic from Four Keeps are you proudest of making? And like this could be an item, an encounter, some other
God.
one-off mechanic.
This sucks because I made homebrew mechanics for like every person except the only one I think I didn't necessarily make homebrew mechanics for was Gwen.
Really?
Yeah,
I-
like there
can I-
was like
can I
the Eye
suggest
of the
The axe
Storm.
wasn't homebrew?
The axe was homebrew, but the idea of scaling it up came from the Critical Role book, which was like, oh, this is the sleeping, the awakened, and the
Mhm.
exalted form.
Do
That
you
came
mind if I
up because
suggest something?
Huh?
Do you mind if I suggest something?
Yeah.
Godling powers,
So
aka Planeswalker.
this is my thing. Great Worm powers with Arjhan, an entire subclass for Caelum, or Godling powers for Cori plus the Ring of Autumn. Those four things combined in total, I would say, is like my magnum opus as far as a game designer. But if I had to choose to like cut in between the two, like to narrow it down to two, it would be the Godling powers, because those directly bled into how the Great Worm powers were tailored. And then also having an entire subclass for Caelum, but that was more me just like the spells and the way that everything's laid out in 5e makes a lot of sense when you read it, but it stops making sense as soon as you enter the discussion of why can't, as a wizard, if I am learning something, change a keyword, such as when you're coding, to instead of like deals poison, rebrand fire. Like it's game design, right? Like it's a standard game mechanic where like you can change the thing of that. Why can't a player do that? And that is now a base thing that wizards can do in D&D, not 5.5/D&D Next, what have you. That's a standard thing that wizards can do. But as far as having never created anything before and trusting one of my friends to just like, I know that you're a wizard. I've played with you before. I know that you're a feisty motherfucker. Here's the ability to do anything. You want to have a good time? Wink. And then the Planeswalker abilities, but I didn't even necessarily create the Planeswalker abilities for this campaign. Those were made for the Ravnica campaign, and then we brought those in for Cori. So as far as the thing that I am most proud of making for this campaign, it is a tie between an entire class for Caelum or one magical item / artifact. I've never made an artifact before. The Ring of Autumn took me maybe a month and a half to figure out before I was ready to present that to a player.
Sorry, I never used it correctly.
You did. It just not... Look, I gave you a thing that said 18 abilities and you read 17. That's not either of ours fault.
Yeah. He uses a fair bit. Circling back to the whole subclass, RJ, what's the craziest planned use of Caelum's magic that we didn't get to see?
I'm so terrified.
What we didn't get to see was how Caelum sealed Caius. And it's a funny story. Did you know that the 9th level ability Imprisonment isn't concentration, it just happens? Right? So, Caelum had stored Caius away in a scabbard, casted a animate object on the scabbard to turn it into a creature, and then imprisoned the scabbard somewhere.
So you turn him into a flea, a tiny flea, and then you put the flea in a box.
I put that box in another box, and then I shipped it to myself, and then I smashed it with a hammer. So when the casting of animate object goes away, the object is still there because it's considered worn by the creature.
So you basically put him in a straitjacket and made so that the straitjacket cannot be moved in space.
Correct. I haven't really decided on which of the imprisonments that he put him in, but it might be something funny like the maze, because then that means you have to go and find the demi-maze, the demi-plane maze that you can't scry or use divination magic in or teleport into.
That's
and
a
then
good option.
find him inside the maze by rolling several intelligence checks.
Okay, alternatively, though, not to poo-poo the plan, a trapped creature would then need to make a roll to escape that, correct?
No, they're just trapped there.
The maze? The maze is at the end of the turn. They have to
Maze itself is another spell that you have to keep rolling to try to get out of. Imprisonment is like the end-all be-all. You're not going anywhere.
Fair.
You're going nowhere.
And then I put that maze in a demi-plane inside of a little orb. Well, so one of the components for said imprisonment is a tiny miniature of the prison. So I put that tiny miniature of the prison in several demi-planes that you're going to need to search.
Uglon to make it. Get Uglon and Cat to make you a tiny prison palace.
Welcome to my tiny prison palace.
Speaking of villains, do you all have a most despised character? If so, whom?
Stenfazeno!
Oh, I thought you were gonna say T. Oh no, Tifa would be for.
Tifa's from Arjhan.
Yeah, for Arjhan.
God, that got better
Eventually.
Yeah.
Hated NPCs.
It's really
Simon.
hard to say.
Why is Catastrophe?
Why? You didn't have to do that.
Why is Catastrophe?
Because I love her and he can't change my mind. She's one of the worst people I've ever made. But like, she's not the worst in like a Ren or a Tiamat being bad or anybody. She's just, I love the friend group that we have, but like, why do you keep bringing around that guy? Like, the Cat is that guy. And that was me again, like having binged She-Ra and the Princess of Power, saw Techno Princess, what's her fucking name?
Entrapta.
Seeing Entrapta and being like, I can make her worse.
I can't believe Entrapta's dead.
Oh my god, I can't believe she's dead.
I can't believe.
So yeah, that is why Catastrophe. And then I just thought it was really funny if that's actually one of my standout moments of the campaign, is Uglon and Cat getting together and Cori saying, welcome to the family, and Cat's response of, no, welcome to mine. And seeing the look on Danae's face of just like, oh no. Like that was
The problem is that I've gone through that. I already know what that's like.
So yeah, that is why Catastrophe.
I've got mine.
Yeah.
Elsharis. Hate
Oh,
that
yeah.
bitch.
Yeah. Oh,
You
Right.
charmed my dad?
Elishars is the legitimate answer. Like, public enemy number one. All of us are ready and willing to do horrible things to get her out of here.
If you ask me who Cori's most hated character is, it would be Shar. But if I look inside my heart, I know it to be true. Parnell.
He sucked.
He's a character that refuses to learn and refuses to get better.
I'm sorry, Wings. I think you mispronounced he refuses to die.
I forgot about them until this moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god.
They're not our problem.
Yeah. No, see, like, as a player, who caused you the most frustration?
Yeah, that is a fair point. Moving on from that. So for Simon,
Yeah.
what story or character moment were you nervous preparing or introducing that turned out great when it wound up being played out?
Oh, all of them, I would say. As the GM, I know it's tired at this point to say, but I never did this before. As my main reason for always being nervous and always having that moment of anxiety. But it's not that, because it's not that I haven't done this before. In theater, when I was doing theater in high school, we would describe it as pre-show jitters. And when you, over a course of period of time, spend hours selecting choice words for a monologue, specifying every single thing that you need to say in a given point, it becomes nerve-wracking going into that. and that is not for any, and that's just for speaking monologues for characters who are villains, right? Now imagine speaking as Oliviette and spending hours of your time writing out a monologue to ask one of your players who is the love interest of your character, why can't I join? To spend hours of time writing a song for a party member specifically for when they die or when they reach a certain part of the campaign, or the idea of like, no, I would like for there to be a living song with my players, but I don't know how to write music, but I want there to be, and learning how to do that, and not necessarily even learning, but learning how to write music, but learning how to let go on that. So as far as moments throughout the campaign that I feel stuck the most were the ones that I prepared ahead of time and that I labored over. There are others that I didn't, that also stuck as well, such as Elisharis kissing Farron and then sending Caelum, be like, like, that was one of those, like, I'm such a bad bitch. This is great. Like, that was one of those moments, but realizing, like, in the second to last session of writing a goodbye, that was, I think, the hardest thing I had to write in the entire series, was a way to present myself as a person in the campaign and then say the things that I wanted to. Because I can, as the GM, I can take on any face, I can be any person, I can be a plant if I want to, I can do anything. But the one thing I can't do is be myself. And so as a GM, how do you appear as yourself? As you, and not you as somebody else. It's not a self-insert, but as the self. And to relay the feelings that you feel culminating after 5 years. I think that's the hardest thing that I had to write. But the most difficult things, obviously, were things like, okay, like Arjhan's patron is showing up. How the fuck do we want to do this? And like hearing from a lot of people, like that was the moment I was hooked on the 4 keeps, being like, oh, okay, shit. Like I did a good job. And like at level 3, like making each of my players decisions for their subclasses and what they wanted to feel important. Because at the end of the day, this is my campaign. Yeah. But it's our campaign. I'm not playing 4 different characters. I am playing a million different characters with the intent of allowing these 4 to go beyond expectation. And that's difficult, and that's fucking hard, and I'm looking forward to doing it all over again in season 2.
Fantastic, thank you.
Of course.
Let me see. Today, we had a similar question earlier. How's Cori's relationship with Cypress as of the epilogue?
You know,
it
occurred to me. Sorry, go on.
That I think you mentioned this a little bit during the epilogue, but like, what is Cori's relationship with both as a fellow Caelum and also as Larathian?
I think like I was thinking about it afterwards, and if we did mention Cypress, I feel like we didn't talk about him enough. You know, just being the guy that we rescued in the whole like mid arc.
Like your backstory, bad guy.
Yeah. I feel like he should have come up. I know for a fact that Autumn Cori would have been very close to him as a Caelum. In fact, I think that with time, they would eventually get to the point where she confides in him in being under the influence of Shar. And they like bond and heal over that. I see their relationship as a very like sibling like relationship. And like I see the time after the adventures with Caius, after the Dark Star Legacy, I see that as a time for them to grow and reconnect with someone that she was once very close to, and then went off and turned into an entirely different person. As Lorathian, I hadn't ever considered that. I I think that it depends a lot on Cypress's perspective, uh, whether he's confident in himself or if he feels guilt over his time under the influence of Winter. Um, I think that there is potential for some like good character stuff there. Um, but yeah, I don't I didn't like I tried not to establish a lot of Coralon as Lorathian, just in case, like season 2 problems, cough cough. But yeah, I do think that Cori's relationship with Cypress only gets better with time.
Speaking of things changing with time, this is an everybody question. Are your characters slash the game where you thought it would be when it all started? And how did you think it would be different? Speaking of a different Cypress, but there are plenty of other ways to take that question.
I mean, yeah, like piggybacking off of Cypress, there was a time where we thought that Cori and Caelum would get together. And that's not what happened.
That sounds wrong now.
They're just not those people anymore.
Every time Cori and Caelum had a fight, we had the in-joke of Cypress from the 4 Kids just fading out of existence every single time.
I mean, the 4 Kids in and of itself is just a great time capsule of where we thought the characters were going.
Yeah.
Arjhan Tarlanson, being a single father. I mean, he still kind of ended up there, but yeah. I think he was still using higher level blood hunter abilities.
I think you were using higher level blood hunter abilities before the int whiz slash in it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I really had any expectations for where Arjhan was going to end up. Dead, probably.
That's fair.
I don't think I expected Cori to die as much as she did, but at a certain point, it kind of became a meme.
I made a blood hunter. I knew that he was gonna die. I expected him to stay dead.
If you scroll back far enough in Simon and I's chat, you will find the explicit use of me saying trust, trust, trust 3 times in a row. Because everything that has almost everything that happens to Caelum, I have trusted Simon with. So I have where did I expect Caelum to be? I don't even know. Like, I'm so happy where he is now, though.
Oh, absolutely. It's great.
Gwen, I know there was a halfway through the game when Gwen became the chieftain. There was a point where I had to have a conversation with Simon of being like, well, why wouldn't she stay? I don't know. Like, she would have a responsibility. Like, I thought she was. There was a point where I thought Gwen would stay behind as a chieftain and just then I'd play a different character, which was great because that was directly before. This was at Danae's wedding. Right before this
was happening maybe 2 months before Danae's wedding, and at Danae's wedding was when I showed the very basic version of the Four Keeps intro that had Gwen, LBHackEmUp. And so LB's just like, I don't know if I'd stick to Gwen. And I was like, hey,
I need to know now.
maybe she sticks around.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Which I'm totally happy with. I think I just needed a reason for her to like not be sitting, you know, like with her people all the time. And I think we came up with a good space to do that for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
I think Gwen ended up. Oh no, I'm done.
I was gonna move on. So if you have last thoughts.
No, please.
Speaking of the Four Keeps moving on, and I know of at least two of these. What was your backup character?
Oh, I have it. I can pull up a D&D Beyond.
Well,
It was a
first off, did
Goliath.
everybody have a backup character? We
Yeah.
saw Arjhan.
I didn't have a backup character until because the first time that Cori died, it was a narrative decision. She didn't die mechanically for the first time. And that gave her several lives to work with as she burnt seasons. My backup character was going to be a Shatterkai sent to go kidnap
Caelum.
Yeah. Named Nixaya.
Yeah, the way Simon reincorporated that was a lot of fun.
I guess if I did have an actual backup character, I'd piggyback off of the Arjhan thing and play Viper.
Trying to find a cure for Suwon.
My character was Vatu, the ribbon maker, a fighter rogue Goliath.
All right.
And I was toying with the idea of a Bloodhunter werewolf, Lyric Silvermane, who has since made some appearances in Tyrant Security, where his son Coda was a bigger character. But he also did get some shoutouts in the Four Keeps.
God,
making an appearance there.
This backup party is wildly different.
The vibes are unbelievable. That's a nice and simple one. Also circling back to Gwen leaving would have poor timing. Was there like a great campaign moment that just had some really weird or even bad timing?
Okay.
I have one.
I think I might need to say mine first.
Go yours first. I want to say I also can contribute to this.
When Jordan with the PhD brought his character in, I felt so bad, but we had just been through hell. I felt so bad.
Some things were revealed before Jordan with a PhD came in, and so the vibes were very off.
It wasn't just that, but Cori was mind controlled by a beholder.
Beholder
that later skipped Gwen across lava.
I was vibing. It's fine.
It was awesome.
And then
I think
like,
Gwen
hey, how's it going?
I think Gwen was stoned for a hot second.
Petrified, yeah.
I see that was either right before or right after Arjhan got killed by Kodeth.
Yeah.
Like, oof.
You could not pay me to be in Jordan's shoes at that moment.
You took it like a champ, though.
He
for
didn't
sure.
want to.
Oh, absolutely.
He didn't want to be paid to be in his shoes either.
He was paid?
No.
You guys got paid?
I loved his character though.
Yeah, his character was great. I really if there could be like a fucking mushroom that could have exploded and just calmed emotions everybody right before that, I would have been real okay with that. I think we needed an excuse for our characters to like be welcoming to this person.
Yeah.
But the timing was so bad.
I think mine is, or Simon, do you want to do yours?
Mine was Connor's. It was legitimately like the one thing I legitimately feel bad about. It's just like, Jordan, you're an inspiration to me. I fucking love everything that you do. Please be in my game. It's really fun. The players are fantastic. And him being like, aha, Slime Lord. And you guys being like, now is not the fucking time.
He knows.
Oh yeah,
He's
no,
fine.
Jordan and I are tight. Like we're cool, but like at the same time, it was just one of those like,
I'm so sorry.
like what? Yeah, like I was just like, I should apologize to this person, but at this point, it's been too long. I can't apologize to them.
So fucking funny.
Oh,
Mine
it was so fucking funny.
The only time that Simon betrayed my trust, and because as a player, I was like, I trust Simon. He's giving me signs. Okay, cool. And it's when Caelum got fucking abducted by GB's character.
That was gonna be mine too.
In a time when Gwen was super protective of Caelum, I was like, you were giving me signals as the GM. I being like, look, it's okay. Just stay behind. And I'm like, okay, I trust you. And then he got fucking kidnapped, and I was like, fucking great, Simon. This is fantastic. Make me betray my character, betray my trust.
To be fair, I was supposed to be gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That was
He
right.
had at that point,
I
he had
know.
no choice.
I know, but I also still look. There are a lot of moments in this campaign that I am proud of. There are a lot of moments in this campaign, a good handful of them, that I'm like, I should have done that way differently.
And it's okay. It was a thing where a character, it needed to happen, and I understand as a player. And there have been so many points where it's not like you broke my trust forever, but like that was just one that stuck with me. Where I'm like, this motherfucker.
Oh, I wish we talked a little bit more, Simon, about the Similac Caelum stuff.
God, I couldn't talk to you about it though. How was I supposed to talk to you about it?
In hindsight, it's been long enough. You could have been like, hey, BT dubs. And I would have been so on board.
But where's the fun in that, RJ?
Well, the fun would have been Caelum trying to figure out how to use spell slots he didn't have.
That's not what I wanted, though.
I know.
That was one of the few things where I was like, I will take this part for me.
My little secret.
There is something to be said, though, about allowing your players to be a co-conspirator.
Yeah.
Because that, as a player, being asked to help pull one over on the other players is it's so tasty,
glorious, juicy.
Can't be beat.
At the same time, like it really does depend from person to person, because like the prestige of like you are a Salacrum all the time.
I think for me, when we first started this and RJ was like, I want to be a lich, in my mind it was, how can I get him to be a lich during the campaign? That's not just like a god did it, because gods don't make liches typically. And so at that point I was also, the year prior, Blade Runner consumed my identity. Blade Runner, the director's cut, the animated short series, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, and also Blade Runner 2049. And a lot of that is about, am I who I think I am? And the idea of Caelum, of this other Caelum, because I think that was one thing that I was honestly a little surprised that the rest of the party never, I think it was something that they internalized, but it was something that they never talked about, was Caelum not being that Caelum, because then it became a joke later on where it was just like, don't you remember meeting this guy? That was the other Caelum. Oh, sorry. And then like moving on past that point, but like, especially with Caelum's whole like simulacrum into another person, when Cori was going through all the Shar things, there was never a question as to whether or not that was the real Cori. It was, this is the real Cori and she's doing shitty things, versus, well, this couldn't be Cori. And I think that that was one thing that I was very, like in hindsight, was kind of curious about, of just like the way that the Caelum situation was handled, and then bleeding into literally everyone else.
I think that in particular is just meta bleed, though, because like the players were just sitting there watching Cori talk to Shar. Like it like you saying that now makes perfect sense, but like from a player perspective, like the pieces are all there. It's an interesting way to go, but I understand why that wasn't their first instinct.
Yeah. I will ask Simon, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from running your own 1 to 20 campaign?
To embrace the 1,000 yards. My lesson, and this is a lesson that is learned not from a level 1 through 20 campaign running it, but on the back heels for running this campaign. Running this campaign was on the back heels of playing in a level 1 through 20 campaign. And for me, it comes down to this. Ask your players at the very beginning, if you can, what is it about playing these games? What is it that's important to them? What is it specifically that they find joy in? In my level 1 through 20 campaign, we played the whole thing. It was great. I had a very good time playing it. Asterisk, because that asterisk was for specific sets of levels. It was for specific story arcs that I remember at one point throughout the entire campaign, I was like, wow, my GM is so good. I love being in this campaign. Everything is very well thought out. And then my GM and I would talk about like crit roll and the long since ended dice camera action and the C team and other games like that. And so, you know, I started watching them. And then I remember one specific week where it was the 4 keeps going up against a dragon. It was dice camera action. They went up against an ice dragon, and the dragon was described with its eyes going in separate directions, almost chameleon-esque, for that like true seeing up to 120 feet. And I was driving to the game because I was already feeling like it was kind of like falling a little bit to the wayside. Just like the GM, his heart wasn't in it anymore. And I told my partner, I was like, when we get there, because I knew that we were going into a dragon fight, I will bet you Taco Bell on the way home that when our GM describes this dragon, it will be an X-way with the eyes going in various directions. We get there. We do the scene. It is an ice dragon that exists in limbo. Okay, unique. The ice dragon has the hull of a ship that it is using as its treasure trove. Crit roll season 1, the ice dragon that they fought in the Draconian homeland. That was a thing that it had brought to this mountainous terrain as a trophy. We go up to fight this monster. The GM, the dragon's eyes move, blah, blah, blah. And like, I realized that he was giving us an experience. Yes. But it wasn't his.
it wasn't something that was geared towards us as players, and it wasn't something ultimately that he could feel as his campaign. And you know, talking to him later and getting to be friends with him and all of that, like, I understand where he was coming from, because in that moment he was having a tough, like, outside perspective. So in the game, the orientation suffered a little bit. But the more that I became engrossed in all this other D&D media, the more that I saw the influences, and it was really hard to pull the curtain back once you had seen the man behind. And going into my own 1 through 20 campaign, that is why I asked my players specifically, what is it about this subclass that is drawing your character? What is it about this relationship that is affecting your character? I started asking my players a lot more in-depth questions, because at the end of the day, I didn't want this to be a piecemeal campaign of other campaigns that they might have seen, heard, or played from before. I wanted this to be reflective of everything that they had put forth. Because, like, in my campaign, we fought our BBEG, like what we all agreed was the BBEG, at like level 18. And then we had 2 levels 19 and 20, that were essentially filler episodes. That doesn't feel good as a player. And as a GM, I was going to do every single thing that I possibly could to make it so that way my players didn't have that same experience that I did. So what did I learn? Your players have a better understanding of their characters than you do. Listen to your players, listen to your characters, give them what they want. Give them what they want, and they will respond in the surprise Pikachu face of just like, Mom, Dad, I want a race car bed for Christmas on Christmas. Here is your race car bed, child. Oh my God, who could have foreseen such a circumstance? Like, that is what running for these players has been, tell me what you want, I'll give it to you. I'll do exactly what you want me to do. I'll put my own spin on it, but, like, listen to your players and go into a story knowing how it ends.
Yeah, that's a lot of big takeaways from this and the other nights in the courtyards for me, where it's like, yeah, I'm in a level 1 through 20 game and I'm having fun. Asterisks. And there are things that my game is doing. It's like, again, I'm having a great time, but there are things that's like, okay, were I to do something similar?
Yeah.
Speaking of other games, all of you have played other games and other systems while playing 4 Keeps. How has the experience provided perspective on 5e? Were there any tricks to collaborative storytelling that was picked up elsewhere?
Oh boy. I've started playing a lot more narratively driven games recently, instead of like the combat crunch. And the things that I had to take away from that is, I think I've also brought it to a lot of the other games that I've played, is that you can both min-max and be really into the narrative. Like, be the combat character you want to be in combat, be the narrative character you want to be in the narrative. Just don't be the perfect person, you know? Have your flaws and expand on that, because that's what makes good storytelling.
I think for me, going back, every time I come back to this game, like, I do get burnout from playing so many games in general sometimes, but every time I come back to this game, it is just like, oh, thank God. And it's so chill just because I love these people and the characters and stuff. And I think that I most want in my other games what we have here, as far as like the ability to role play the way that we do, and being so invested in moving the story along ourselves, and like we're not waiting. Like, as a GM, I was reflecting on some of my other campaigns and stuff. I'm like, God, I wish my players would have more agency and do more things. Like, I understand that I've given you a path to go on, but you don't have to follow it like linearly. You can do other things. So I want to try to encourage that from my players, and in other games be able to like have those role play moments and not have it be like, oh, it's just one scene and then, you know, we're done. Like it just that is what I love the most about this group in this game, because it is just the story is given to us, but we do drive it, which I really like.
I'd say that the thing that I've learned, I've also been playing a lot more narrative games, which, like, when you play more narrative games, there's less, like, attention paid to the mechanics, and more just, like, downtime interaction between characters. And I've found that, like, sometimes the character just takes over and says things that surprises you. And learning to like let go of the wheel a little bit, stop trying to like have a stranglehold on my character and knowing exactly what every turn that they're going to make. I think that's what has what I've really learned from other game systems. And a place that's exemplified in Four Keeps is Summer Cori turning into a rebel. Like that was not on the table at all. She was supposed to become the like embodiment of Larathian. Like they were supposed to go on and be the sun god, you know? And now they're wearing a leather jacket, smoking and riding a motorcycle into the sunset. Yeah. Just let your characters be who they are.
I'll go a little bit more specific. Uh, the stuff that's on your sheet in 5e is very specific about how it works and how it affects the fiction of the world in a particular moment. Other games, like Urban Shadows, Powered by the Apocalypse, the moves in the game are broader descriptions of how the story and the narrative is going to be affected because of the use of that move. Like saying, because I use this, I'm going to get something and I will have to, like, one of the favors that I owed somebody is going to be taken, or I'm going to lose something, but somebody else's this other narrative effect happens down the line. That is a useful tool for taking a step back and basically going figuring out what your intentions are for something and bringing it up and taking a step back, bringing it up and figuring out how you can achieve those results in the moment. So like, I don't have a specific example, but like if my intention is to like get out of this without doing combat, I, you know, it's really great to just like bring that up, like, hey, my goal right now is to get everybody out of here and leave this place without killing anybody. GM, what roles can I make to make that happen? Let's figure out how this is going to work in the moment, because this is what I really need to happen right now. That's that taking a step back is definitely one tool from those narrative games. From a GM side, oh my gosh, is it so helpful to prep the events in the world with countdown clocks. Like just knowing like how events are going to progress if nobody intervenes in them, and just like knowing that you can tick off that things are progressing at narratively appropriate times. It's a really great tool for prepping.
For me, as the brain that's functioning behind the world, games, I think that if anything, the inspiration for most every other game that I've played has been helpful. For example, reading how the cipher system describes distances between touch, close, and far. We do theater of the mind. That's so fucking helpful. Why did I never think of that? Monty, DM me. Like, tell me what it is you're thinking on this one. For things where it is like character bonds and stuff like that, I think that we already did well, but it was framing how the characters have the distance and functioning like that. And then the other thing that I found most helpful when designing magic items and designing abilities wasn't looking at how other abilities and magic items were designed necessarily in a Dungeons and Dragons setting, but it was looking at things like Magic the Gathering, Flesh and Blood, like trading card games or video games, where it's a much more restrictive cost on how things are created. Because I think that giving a player a resource pool and saying these are the things that you can do with your resources is good. For example, the Planeswalker abilities, and by extension, the Great Worm abilities, that is actually all based on the idea behind the color of Magic the Gathering's mana pool black, being that your health bar is an additional resource. If I had never learned how to play black in Magic the Gathering, never to use my own health as a resource, other games where you're using health as a resource, to give the option to a player and say, you can heal your whole party. You can use that like Godling Burst ability that Cori has, where she uses all of her hit dice. Technically, Cori could have then said, I am going to deal 10d10 damage to myself to utilize this ability. And if I had only been looking at games that are about necessarily benefiting the player and saying, you can do this, bad things will happen narratively, but not mechanically, I don't think that I would have had the inspiration for those mechanics outside of that. Because as much as I do love that narrative aspect, knowing that we were in a 5-year campaign, knowing that we were levels 1 through 20, it was more of those, I'm going to give them this crazy mechanical benefit, and then the role play will sort of massage itself out in the background. Like, they still got 3 years to talk about, is it really right to use this magic item? Like, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's my input on it.
Okay, moving on to something a little bit. I love the artsy stuff, but to lighten it up a little bit, what's one moment where the dice gods love you, or have the ways worded, or where the dice gods have demonstrated their displeasure?
Every single time Caelum rolls a dexterity skill check
Or initiative.
or initiative,
Yeah.
it's
Hit
always
dice.
a 1 or
Hey.
low enough. But the dice gods giveth in the clutch guiding volts that nat 20.
Hit dice, history checks. Hit dice are what led me to have the least amount of hit points out of everyone in the party, being the paladin, and also there's a wizard in the party. And I had the least amount of hit points out of everyone. I'm never rolling for hit dice again.
I never have bad rolls, but the best rolls that I have were when I was fighting Talos, and I kept coming back after I hit that 1. Oh, it's great. It's so good. You can't kill me.
Any crit I ever smited was a blessing. I'll take that much.
The worst one was really right at the end, misfiring on the Chaos Goo.
Ooh.
Let me tell you something about projectiles in space. Physical projectiles have something called inertia, and there's no gravity in space to slow down said inertia. That Chaos Bolt is going to mess up a farmer's day one day. Just randomly.
No, I remember that there was like a solid month and a half where Cyber, you couldn't roll above like a 10.
Oh yeah. When did the blood chalice become a thing?
Oh, like level 2.
Episode 8. Yeah.
Blood
Yeah,
Chalice
it
has
was
been
it was
around
real
forever.
early. It didn't help.
Fucking I felt in retrospect I did feel bad about it, but underneath Cercelier using the Nevermore spell on that one creature while it having vulnerabilities and then stealing the nat 20 from the blood chalice.
Yeah. I remember you being like, I steal it, and Cyber was like, yeah? And you're like, it'd be really cool if I could use it right here. And he's like, okay. There was a trust that happened at that point of just like, okay, I realized what I did.
Yeah. What was everybody's favorite story arcs? I'm trying to like match the arc titles versus the narrative beats. But yeah, like what's the like a specific chunk of the campaign where you're like, oh yeah, a lot of fun stuff was happening there.
Abyss. I'm proud of Abyss.
This was great.
Just insurmountable odds, but just some character knowledge, some world building, and coming up with a fucking fantastic plan that just went off so fucking great. I'm very proud of Abyss. I'm very proud of that, of the whole let's not go to his lair. Let's bring him to Avernus.
Y'all stuffed Orcus in a locker.
Welcome to high school. Welcome to high school.
Just calling on so many allies that we knew. Pulling on some threads, using a little bit of player knowledge with regards to like Tasha, but it's just everything about that. Also, Arjhan and Rasa, that's where their relationship started. Abyss is my answer.
I think for me, the area where we had the perfect, in my opinion, the perfect blend of everything was the Fomorian city, where we started the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
It had the intrigue, it had the combat, it had the role play, all jam-packed in that little, like, glass bottle episode.
I'm scared of us from there.
Yeah, we got to see, like, how dark we could get.
I gotta say my personal favorite was the one where we went to a music festival in the Underdark, just because we got to see Cori and Olivia in action together. And just like a lot of interactions, but like whenever we see Cori and Olivia together, it's always like, you know, either talking about relationship stuff or they're on a date. That arc was an opportunity to see them like actually doing like adventurer shit together, and that was a lot of fun. Also like Olivia having to deal with seeing her mom again, but like I just have the mental image of like they're in the middle of a party, and like Cori knows that Oliviette's mom is here, and she like pushes Oliviette against a wall and like blocks her with her body, and I'm like, ugh. Gah! It's that shipping shit that I needed. I don't know. Like I like seeing relationship stuff when Blorbos are in situations. Dating is fun, but you know what's even more fun? Peril.
Advent for me, making Gwen face her past that she ran away from. And like, having that experience, and then, being able to save her family. And, maybe as a kid, she didn't see the situation for what it truly was. And she just, reconnecting with her family, finding out she has a brother, all that stuff. So
my personal favorite, and this will answer two of the questions that we have, is Winter. I really liked Winter, where if the campaign wasn't slated to go on for as long as it did, that would have been a good natural stopping spot for what we had going. And also because I liked the boss. I liked the design. Like the double question was, what stat block am I most proud of? Vinru, the Winter's Bane, like the primordial of winter. Out of all of the fights that you all had throughout the Four Keeps, even in Darkstar Legacy, I felt like the fight against Vinru was the most taxing. That was the one where that was where like everything clicked into place for me, as to like, oh, this is how you build a fight. This is like, I figured it out in that moment. That was the big brain like expanding moment for me, was that combat. So that's mine. That's my arc. And that also is the arc where Cori had to double down with Shar. That's also where the Fomorian Fortress arc happened. That's where you got to meet Scorchbane and the Kings of Summer. Like all of the Feywild was in that Winter arc. And it's really hard for me to not think about this campaign and not think of Winter fondly.
Yeah, that was the arc that like really hooked me when I started making sure to watch every single session. Yeah, Winter was great. Yeah, got that question out of the way. Speaking of Greenreach, which is one of my answers for this, what was everyone's favorite setting, town, or shop?
Honestly, we harp on it, but I really do adore things that make you say wow.
Things that make you say wow
Yes,
is hands down.
absolutely.
Every single time we enter, there is a new horror to behold in the entrance of Arillo Thread Twister.
Yes, absolutely. I was always waiting on bated breath for every time somebody walked into a things that make you say wow.
What was one of them where he just came out of the frog?
Yeah, that was like the third things that make you say wow.
Yep.
And then apparently one of the things, like, you just hear screaming in the background as one of the Arillos is getting dragged away as his exit.
Yeah. And then a new Arillo shows up.
Yeah. Another one walks in.
Sorry about that.
Oh, God.
The Olero was also a highlight.
Mm-hmm. I just liked going into things that make you say wow, and then going into the depths and going into the Rick and Morty style. There are like a billion different
Sigil.
out. Yeah.
Sigil.
My favorite was one that y'all never went to, and I tried getting you all to go there so hard, but it's, as a GM, I was like, oh, maybe. It was the floating town of Promise that existed between Illyria and the place where you would then go underneath to go to the Caelum Empire.
Right.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was a city that was built of floating ships that had all been moored next to each other, and there was a bar called the Bark's Bite. And the Bark's Bite was owned by a shifter with a mean streak a mile wide. And like I had like this whole place figured out and sorted. That's where the song, when you guys ended up going to Paradise, came from. It was originally going to be in Promise. or Prospect, and then you guys just were like, ah, fuck that place. We're going way past it. Teleport magic, baby. And I was like, oh.
We decided to help out at a civil war.
Okay.
Make it a season 2 problem, bruh.
Yeah.
I want to go. That sounds cool.
Prospect's a great town.
A season 2 prospect.
Oh.
Woohoo. Speaking of things that
Yeah,
didn't play out.
I like Verstein.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I mean,
Verstein was great.
It's homie.
Speaking of things that didn't play out, what was I mean, we touched a lot on this. What's a potential like character arc or story moment that just didn't wind up happening?
I wanted to talk to Silmi more as Caelum. We had little mementos for each other, because I think I gave Silmi a glass orb with her and Kefris in it, and she gave me Matryoshka dolls that I still have.
Mine is the fucking catnap coming back. I had that in my bag for so long, and then it got stolen, and I was like, this is one of those things that as a player I was like, this is gonna come, I'm gonna, at the opportune moment, this is gonna come, I'm gonna poison somebody and make him fall asleep, and it's gonna be like, you know, a year and a half later, nobody remembers that I have this, and then everything got stolen and I never got to use it. I'm still mad about that, Simon. It's been 4 years.
Season 2 problem.
Yeah.
I feel like I established Cori having a problem with her winter season really early on. And I would have liked for her to eventually like come to terms with that and be like, you know, winter isn't okay. It's okay to be sad, you know, like for her to have like a toxic positivity arc. But like, you know, we just went a different direction. It's not a road we went down, but it was like something that I had planted seeds for ahead of time, and it would have been neat to see play out.
I thought Arjhan was going to find the Smiling Man earlier, and we were ramping up a lot of the meta stuff, especially like right after D&D. It was just like, oh yeah, there's absolutely a dragon thing that lets them see the multiverse. So I thought since we had already been seeding like the Smiling One, that he would show up before the end as this like this thing that we were chasing but really couldn't understand. And the fact that there were other Cadron gods that the other players could possibly lean into and have Arjhan interact with in that lead up would have been, it would have been difficult. It probably would have taken a little too much effort. It may have been a little definitely distracting from the story that we were going on. Yeah.
We're pretty much at time.
We'll do 2 more
do we want to join?
questions.
Great. I'm going to pick a heavy one because I have to take a quick bio break. So, it's not uncommon for actors inhabiting roles for extended periods of time to experience character bleed. You have experience with that? And if so, what influence did it have on you? What steps did it take to mitigate it or prevent it in the future?
It's not so much character bleed as mannerisms, but I did explain earlier in the stream that Danae did catch me writing words down with my finger on a table, And I believe the first time we went to Gen Con, we were staying over at LB's, and Lauren, well, our dear friend Ren Reckless, was staying over as well.
Yeah.
And I think we've had like a couple of beers, and Lauren just like decided to change in the living room, and I just immediately spun around and looked the other way, and and Danae was just like, "You just went Caelum there."
There was a lot of moments where I just like say that you're acting like Caelum, when I think it's really more like the other way around. Like we put a lot of ourselves into our characters.
What
I
about
don't-
for you, Danae?
God. Somebody else go first. I need to think. I need to think about it more.
Well, I was gonna say that I don't remember having Arjhan bleeding be a problem here. There have definitely been games that I've been in where I have experienced character bleed, and it's been really like really tough. But I don't think that there's been a moment where the bleed I don't know what was that bad. I'm
Yeah.
coming at this from a very negative perspective of like negative
Yeah.
emotions for your character bleeding into your
Yeah.
normal thoughts.
Well, for me, Gwen's thing, like Gwen's character bleed for me is I turn my brain off on Monday nights. Like if I'm not in a scene, I don't listen to it that closely. And I find that there was a point probably about halfway through or just past halfway through where I was like, I don't remember anything that happened, which is bad. Like I had to use Noctua's notes to like, okay, and I still have that problem where you guys will bring up like NPCs and I'm like, I don't even remember that person. And it's not because I didn't like the story or I didn't listen to it. It was like I wasn't paying attention enough because Gwen brain turned on and I didn't need to pay attention that much. Like, so that's a big one for me.
I do recall a couple of moments where I was very emotionally invested, probably to a fault. I remember when Caelum was kidnapped, I was very concerned about him. And we had to have an aside and be like, okay, like Caelum has to be okay. In this one instance, in this one situation, he has to definitely be okay. And I do also remember the revelation of Cori being manipulated by Shar was particularly hard on me. I mean, because the characters reacted in a very realistic way, and it wasn't the way that I had envisioned that reveal going. And I internalized a lot of the negativity that was directed towards Cori in that moment. And I had to take a step back and like analyze that. And this came up before where I said like I needed to like realize what I wanted from that situation. And I didn't know until the reveal that it wasn't what I wanted. And that in particular was hard for me. And being able to take a step back from that and realizing like, haha, oops, oopsie whoopsie, we did a trauma. We really it was a learning experience. And I know now that that wouldn't happen again.
Can we get that as merch?
That
Oopsie
whole
whoopsie,
thing?
we did a trauma.
Oopsie whoopsie, we did a trauma.
Today, put it
the
into the queue.
the flower.
As the GM, I am going to do the opposite of all of these players, and say regrettably, I did not have player or GM bleed because I was thinking about things very much as you would looking down at a battle map. So when there were situations like Makoth, like Shar, like these other things, after the session ended, I went, good, that's done. And then there was a hard cutoff, and I stopped thinking about it. And it was because of the situations like those that then my players were having a bad time, and I was like, what? Oh, shit, right, yeah, that thing that happened. You're right, that was bad. And, like, I think that ultimately a little bit of bleed isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think that it can be healthy. That being said, your dungeon master, to your dungeon masters, your players are not your therapist. And to your players, your dungeon master is not your therapist. There are a lot of things that happen throughout an extended campaign that are rough and that are difficult. And I think that if you are friends, and I think that if you have a good dialogue with each other, that you can broach in a understanding way. But with that being said, you also need to have, if you see somebody that's having a bad time, you should try and have the emotional maturity to be like, hey, somebody I care about is having a bad time. What's up? And then if they say, oh, it's because of the game, you can at least like double back and figure out what that's about versus being like, they seem like they're having a bad time. That fucking sucks. Anyways, what was I doing over here? Like, being emotionally in tune is part of that emotional bleed, I would say. So it's not necessarily
like having
bad one way or the other.
Feeling safe enough to open up about something like that is very important. And I like fostering a environment, a community where you feel safe, or a player feels safe to like go to at least the GM and talk about something like that is also very important.
Yes.
Let me just look over all these again. Let's see. Yeah, I think let's end on a high note and end with the beginning. What, if any, is your most favorable and favorite memorable moment from A New Dawn, the first arc of the game?
Y'all can remember A New Dawn?
Then Zeno, of course I do. I'm sorry. No, my favorite moment was when Caelum was running away and Gwen jumped out of a window to go and like grapple him and be like, "You're not going fucking anywhere."
My favorite moment was when Caelum saw Cori face step for the first time, and did a step of the Raven Queen over to her and said, "I can do that too."
I was gonna say the same thing because it leads into Caelum's capstone ability as a Speaker of the Lost, where he can replicate a spell with a reaction. I really want to get it animated where it's Caelum shadow stepping up to Cori and saying, "Hey, I can do that too," but then it smash cuts to the arcane eye twisting as he's copying a spell.
Alternatively, Laurel can do what she sees as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, Danae took my pick, so please someone else go.
Yep, sorry.
I legitimately don't remember where A New Dawn ends. So
A New Dawn ends as we leave Cert Cellier after the
Shroudport.
Shroudport, where we headed up to Marysville.
Since I poached yours.
No?
No, that goes through a whole like 3 arcs.
No, it does, doesn't it?
Like we don't leave Shroudport until we hit level 3.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all hit our
New
subclasses
Dawn,
there.
You meet Peter later.
That's
Parnell.
That's not A New Dawn.
No?
I think that's arc 2 because we're heading
That's
to
arc 3.
Did we fight the Marin? Or
the Scarelock?
The Meanlock?
No. Those the not in
that's
the.
No.
that's the end of it. Like
Let me
a New
check.
Dawn is like
Check the
3
notes.
episodes.
Noctua says
3
A New
episodes
Dawn
that
ends
were
with
5
meeting
years ago, mind you.
Stenfazeno.
Okay. Meeting
Did-
Stenfazeno.
Did we fight the fish people?
No, that was up in Marysville, right?
No,
No.
we did fight the fish people before we left Shroudport.
Right, because we did it
That-
for the
that was one of the
Fisher
first
and his
shots.
son.
That was
in
Discovery.
Discovery.
Dang it.
What about
that was
just
gonna be-
early game stuff? Okay?
Early
game
Okay.
stuff.
Early game
Yeah.
stuff.
Before pre-leaving Shroudport. How about that?
Yeah.
I will say this. Because I poached
Ah,
RJ's.
No, I got
favorite
it. I got it. It was the goodbye fight between Caelum and Farron. Yeah. Where it was the first to 3, and Caelum got at least 1 or 2 hits in, and then Farron was like, haha, action surge.
Catapult ball bearings is still like my favorite out-of-pocket move. After that fight, I'm like, God, that was brilliant. You were inspired.
The fucking fake out with Micahs.
Oh, God!
Wow. Damn.
For those of you at home, what happened in that? What was that?
The fake out with Micahs.
Yeah.
Micahs was the Archangel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a really good one.
If I do,
Oh.
another angel might die.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's right. I was gonna say the first time that Cori changed seasons,
Mhm.
we were on a rowboat on our way to where we would eventually fight the sea creatures, the Sahugan.
Guys?
Yeah, and then which eventually led to Caelum getting speared through and everything. But that was the first time Cori changed seasons. She changed to spring form on her way over there.
How about Caelum and Gwen not being able to swim? So Arjhan, Gwen got strapped to Arjhan's back when we went in the water.
Oh, you got Yoda'd, right?
Yeah.
I think if I had to choose my favorite moment, it was you all getting a guy. It's broken up into 2. One, when you all realized that the big bad of your first story arc's name was the Big Cheese. I loved that. And that's when I was like, oh, that feels good. I can
really
just be
onto something.
shitty about this whole thing. And then the second was you having a guy that you were interrogating, and they asked, what is your group's name? Before we went to break, because it was your group being like, and then we went to break, and then when you came back, we had like 15 minutes downtime in between. It was like, we are the 4 keeps. And there was a lot of like look around like, yeah, that's what we're going with. Okay. Like, to then the last session of the campaign saying, and we play for keeps, with Cori dealing that final blow, was just very, again, there are a lot of things about this campaign that are cyclical, that wrap around to early things that we did. And that was one of those things where, like, I saw it connect after it happened and was like, oh my God, it's beautiful.
I could stare at this all day.
And I do. My wallpaper on my computer has not changed in 3 years.
What is it?
It is the watercolor 4 keeps picture.
Oh, mine's the sleepover party.
Slumber party's good.
Slumber party.
Mine is the Lantern Festival.
I don't look at my own art. Don't look at me.
You Jay's?
I have
What, the Raven Queen one?
I have prints of the winter one in my office, along with Arjhan and Tarlayan.
That's a good one.
Killing me, you guys. I have magnets. I have magnets for
You
merch.
do. You do. A hint of Faye.
Yeah, a hint of Faye.
We all have mugs that read Hint of Fae.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
sure
don't,
do.
but
I
I
actually
have
do
other
not.
mugs. All right, but Levi, do you
Yeah, I
have,
was gonna say.
do you
Yeah,
have any last questions, maybe unprompted from
Or
the script that
favorite
you wanna ask?
moments.
Yeah, what's your favorite moment as well from the early?
Spoil us, buddy.
God, I think I went over a lot of what I liked. The winter arc was a lot of fun. And like knowing that that's been building up for a long time. God, now I'm on the spot.
How does it feel?
There's a lot. Yeah, I think that, like that middle of it, there's like a handful of story arcs that when I think about the game, I think of Arjhan fighting Kodeth, about Gwen like reconnecting with Screen Reach, all of Winter arc, this Caelum killing Father Linar, like there's so much of it that's like, yeah, this is the good shit.
It's true.
And with that, do you have any other questions for myself or each other?
Thank you for,
Thank
being our
you.
moderator for this lovely
It's
chat.
so nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to actually talk to you people, like with my mouth parts.
You people.
Instead of just typing with my fingies.
Yeah.
Hey, it was like one big nights in the courtyard, and
Yeah.
I kind of loved it.
Yeah.
I
Great.
greatly enjoy this. Levi, thank you so much for coming out and doing all of this for us. I know that you're not a standard part of this game from, at least, again, as we said, the moving of the mouth parts. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to find out more about you. Levi, where can we find you? What do you do?
You can find me technically on Twitter at LeviFips97. Also, like the jeans at bluesky.social. You can find my some design stuff at levi-fips.itch.io. You got some interstitial playbooks. You got some Monster Hearts playbooks.
I'm playing one of them. He's a really good game designer.
Oh, thank you.
I'm playing Shrek.
Yeah, you messaged me. It's like, oh, people are using these. Great.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been a slow year for me. I'll hopefully have something up sometime before June. Hopefully. You can also find me. We're on hiatus until January, but you can find me at Lantern Light Adventures Sunday nights at 8:30 Mountain Time. In Era of the Dragons. I had to hop in because another player had to bounce, but yeah, it's been pretty good time so far. I hope to do more stuff in the new year. DakeHeater.com.
And RJ, where can we find you? What do you do?
Hey everybody, I'm RJ. You can catch me at RJustice282 on Twitter, Twitch, Blue Sky, TikTok, a bunch of places. Just RJustice282. Catch me once again this week on Thursdays over at the Hype Goblins channel, where things are getting wild. Where I got my Simic hybrid form up. I've got 4 arms, baby, and a hunger deep down that will not be quelled. Saturday. I'm not a squid. I'm a dragon. Where was I? Saturday mornings over at Saturday afternoons over at GGK, where we're doing Blades in the Dark. We're saving Wings' character's father figure from a life of death. Sunday mornings over at the Hype Goblins once again, where we do Pathfinder. I broke up with my wife and she gave me a bow. It's great. Oh, also Tuesday, tomorrow, myself and the Hype Goblin will be over on Roll D5, where we're doing a charity game for some animals. We're gonna be animals. I'm gonna be playing the Raven Ape that I made.
Jake.
His name is Hun. It's gonna be fine. He's Johnny Bravo inspired, so hip hop who. DakeHeater.com.
Wait,
Hello, everybody.
shit. I
Cyber.
forgot.
It's
I
been
I
5
go
years.
I go third.
Simon,
All right,
hey, Cyber for gore, okay?
I go third.
Do you want to go?
Go. I forgot. I forgot that there was someone else here. I got up at
Everybody.
4 a.m. today. I'm tired.
I'm LBHackEmUp. You can find me at LBHackEmUp on the Twitters, Twitches, Blue Skies, and all those fun places like TikTok too. I'm gonna be posting more there. You can see me next on Friday. Ren and I will be doing our holiday stream on LBHackEmUp, which will soon be changing to Hack Recklessly, which is going to be exciting in the new year. We have so many things coming up. There will be a Monster of the Week audio cast coming out this month that I just need to add sound effects to. That was with Northwolf, Cujo Plays Games, and Latinas Against Spooky Shit. It was a lot of fun. We're going to be doing a The Walking Dead one-shot on Northwolf's channel next month with me and Ren. I'm going to be doing a lot of different content next year. We're going to be doing Glitter Hearts in February, run by Greg Leatherman, who wrote the game, so that's fucking awesome. We're going to be doing a Fallout one-shot in March. And then in April, I'm going to be doing a Fallout charity stream, which I'm super excited about, as well as doing other Monster of the Week one-shot audio casts, which I love, and maybe some other audio projects that Simon and I are working on that I'm excited about. So stay tuned for that. DanaeKeener.com.
Boy. I ain't got shit going on right now. It's Cyberwolf 1201 on Twitch. But, breaking for a while. And Cyber on Blue Sky. I don't post shit. I do have stuff on cyberwolf1201.com. Just for free. So yeah, check that out if you want like Zelda Cypher stuff or whatever. I'm just chilling. DanaeKeener.com.
Hey, speaking of DanaeKeener.com, hi everybody, I'm Danae Keener. You can find me at DanaeKeener.com. I do nerdy drawings mostly related to D&D and a lot of things on this channel. I haven't posted in a while, and I probably won't for another little while because I'm going to be very busy getting ready for the Gold Rush game that we're going to be having in January. But at that point, you're going to see a whole lot more of me, so get ready. It's going to be fun. It's going to be One Piece, but Western. I've been trying to avoid saying that, but that's basically what it is. DanaeKeener.com!
And if you've made it this far, you probably already know who I am. It's me, your buddy, your pal, your friend, the Indoor Adventurer, the showrunner here at twitch.tv/IndoorAdventures. We do shows like this on Monday. At least we will sometime in January. And Sunday. Probably also in the new year. And maybe throughout the week if I find the time for it. But, hey, guess what? I had a great time being here. I had an absolutely fun time having these folks on the channel. You can find more of that over at youtube.com/IndoorAdventures, as well as anywhere audio casts are being made available for free. But for now, for the last time before we go to the new year, first and foremost, Levi, thank you so much for hosting this panel. This was an absolute delight. I'm so glad that we were finally able to meet in such a fantastic fashion.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this has been a blast. I look forward to more in the future. Thank you to
Me
these.
too.
Yeah. Thank you to these players for putting up with our bullshit once again this week, and thank you to everybody who decided to stop on by, because we couldn't do shows like this without contributions from listeners like you. Thank you, and we'll see all of you guys next time. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.